Starting all the way back in episode 1, I've been building a unique world that is both technical, with well over 90 farms now in the world, and aesthetic, with an entire city springing up as the series continues to grow, with over 10 large builds and over 50 total in the city. In this video, you can catch up on the last 1,000 days of our journey as we prepare to head into what I consider the real endgame. This movie will occasionally contain brand new insights and commentary, but otherwise the episodes are exactly as they were originally uploaded. Also, please note this will be the last 1,000 days consecutive movie. Our next check-in like this will happen at 5,000 days, not 4,000. Please make sure you subscribe to see where I take this world next. Okay, before we even get started on this first episode, episode 19, I want to address the trial chambers. I was way too harsh on them in this episode. They're actually kind of fun. I've had a chance to go back now and try them when I've got a lot less gear, and they're fun, they're interesting, they're great sources of copper and tuff. I was way too harsh. So much for my vacation to miniseries land, hey? Hi all, welcome in. I'm Rad, and today we're updating to Minecraft 1.21 in the Tricky Trials update. Well, at least we will be. It's day 2000, I'm supposed to be in a completely different world right now, but the hardcore world called me back. Something about a big Minecraft update, I need to get caught up. Anyway, I was going to run the raid farm for a bunch more emeralds before the update, but honestly, let's power through it one more time and call it good enough. If you don't know, stacking raid farms like this will no longer work in 1.21, and as much as I like this farm, that's probably a good update for balance reasons. Look how many totems I'm burning because I get too many. We'll need to make up for the redstone, but I'll talk about that later. We're now up to about 6 shulkers of emerald blocks, or about 100,000 emeralds in this world. That'll have to do. Another thing that won't work after the update is my void trader. Portals work differently in 1.21, and the other side of the end gateway stays loaded for 15 seconds like in the nether. That's probably great for the future, but it does break this, so we're going to trade for a bunch of bottles of XP, some redstone, and a few other things, but the main loss here is quartz blocks. I'm not really sure how we're meant to get quartz blocks in 1.21 now. Back to just villager spam maybe, I guess? I'm not mining for it. We'll see. For now, I just have to do a bit of housekeeping to get updated, so bear with me for a few minutes, or skip ahead to this timestamp if you don't care how I chose to update. I don't really want to downgrade my world to get some of the broken Minecraft stuff that people like Filza or Kolani or SB have. I don't judge them having those things at all, but I never said I wouldn't upgrade to get broken stuff. So we're going to upgrade to 24W11A before heading to 1.21. In this particular version of Minecraft, which was a 1.21 snapshot, we can get something I really want. See, Mojang has broken several of my most important farms in the world. My entire source of emeralds, my main source of redstone, and my entire source of quartz blocks. I lose my raid farm, I lose my void trader, my sheep farm is broken and needs repair, my shulker farm is broken and needs repair, my gold farm needs an adjustment, and I have to use a creative command just to keep my spawn chunks so my storage works. That's a lot of nonsense to deal with. So I'm going to offer more than a fair trade here. As you can see, I'm taking 5 of my perfect infinity bows I made previously, and 5 brand new bows, and 5 mending books. I'm going to make 5 mending bows from that, and you'll see I can't put mending on my infinity bow, it just doesn't work. But if I make a mending bow from those books first, when I put both bows into the grindstone, something odd will happen. The mending one remains the same, but the infinity bow now has mending on it, and when I switch them around, they both get all of the enchantments applied. So this is my price of upgrading. I'm not going to make full god armor with this, even though I could. I'm not going to get unlimited diamonds or unlimited netherite, which they broke in 24W18A, even though that's on my upgrade path too. But I am going to make myself a full set of mending and infinity bows. And if you don't like it, I don't care. It's my world, my rules, and after Mojang broke hours and hours of my work, I'm taking something back. And maybe just this on the way out too. That's my price, Mojang. You break my stuff, I tell everyone about your glitches. Let's upgrade. I'm moving the actual canonical hardcore world into 1.21 now, and we are not going back. We have one more bit of housekeeping to do, and I want you to see me do this with absolutely no cuts in the video. Okay, so Mojang wouldn't give us a slider for this. Open to LAN, allow commands, start LAN world, and we're going to run one custom command here, game rule, spawn chunk radius 10, that's what it was before the update, and that's what it's going to be now. We asked Mojang to make that a slider or an in-game rule or anything else, and what they chose to do was rename cheats to commands. So Minecraft themselves said, just don't call that a cheat. Fine. I still want to name this video Mojang Made Me Cheat in Hardcore Minecraft. Our last bit of housekeeping is to trim chunks. 1.21 introduces trial chambers, which is a new structure that will only spawn in new chunks. I don't want to go thousands of blocks out to get to my first one, and my world file is getting large anyway. So while we're here, let's trim out any chunk I haven't spent at least 3 minutes in. The program I use for this is MCA Selector. You can open up your world like I am now. You can see my pagoda here and the rest of the city. The cherry trees render in black, which is odd, but you can see the villager trading hall, temple with the path down, the Buddha, the Lego build, all of it. And the orange selection are going to be chunks I haven't spent at least 3 minutes in. Some of those are even next to my house because even though I'm around them, I haven't been in those exact chunks. We don't want to trim anything that close to home, so I'm just going to unselect a huge area around here. The outer areas are going to be farms, and this is what I'm left with in my world. Now we can play 1.21. Let's get into it and bring everyone else back. So today I'm going to take on 5 trial chambers, the new 1.21 structure, and I'm going to empty every vault in each one. I'll try and collect both new armor trims, the 3 pottery shards, the new mace, some wind charges and breeze rods, and add all of the new copper, tuff, and other items to my auto storage system. But before that starts, I want to tell you about the biggest project my world has ever had. I'm going to use a nether portal to go several thousand blocks out to a brand new area in the world. This swamp is going to be hugely important to the future of our world starting from today. Since raid farms are now useless, I'm going to build a double witch hut farm in this swamp. That's no big deal, but I'm going to stick that witch farm inside a fully cleared out perimeter, and not just a normal 272 by 272 block perimeter. I'm going to make this the first quarter of a 528 by 528 block quad perimeter. And that's hut number 1, and this over here is hut number 2. I'm going to go into the middle of them and set up Mini HUD to show you what I have in mind. Mini HUD's a mod that lets me see the despawn sphere, which is the area where mobs can spawn inside and cannot spawn outside. The red dome around me is going to show the area around my player that mobs can spawn. I need both huts to be inside this dome. Because we don't yet have replay mod for 1.21, I'm going to have to show you this in free cam, but as I go high above the world you can see that both witch huts are well within the dome. And if I go even higher you can see the much larger picture of where the 4 perimeters will go. I can actually highlight that for you in Mini HUD as well. This grid's going to represent 4 full-size perimeters, an area over 500 by 500 blocks, and every block within the grid is going to get removed all the way down to bedrock. That's this pillar in the ocean, all the way over to that one over there, that pillar over there, and one you can't see that's in the distance over there. However, the majority of this work is boring and won't interest most of you, so I'm going to be doing a lot of this behind the scenes over the next few episodes. I'm going to upload most of the footage to my Long Play second channel, so those of you who are interested can watch, but I want everyone to know it's happening before it does, so I don't just pop up one day with a fully completed, mega huge perimeter like it's some sort of /fill creative move. I'm going to do the work, and it's a lot of work, but it's mostly not going to happen on the main series. Okay, the easiest way to find a trial chamber is to set up a cartographer and level them up until they get the trade for a trial chamber map. This happens at the journeyman level and not all cartographers get it, so we may need a few here. In my experience doing this, you're going to need emeralds, glass panes, and a compass to get to a trial chamber, but I didn't know that early on, so I did kind of have to wing it and run back and forth. Eventually we did get a map though. Now the way that we lost stacking raid farms is that Bad Omen now comes in a bottle. Yep, you can just mercilessly unalive raid captains as of 1.21 and they won't start a raid immediately in your village. That's good. But these bottles are important for trial chambers. If you drink one... What? How did that hit me? What was I saying? If you drink one while you're inside a trial chamber, the trials will turn into ominous trials with more difficult mobs and more dangerous effects that spawn around you, as well as better rewards. So before heading into a trial chamber, I want to get a few of these new ominous bottles. This is my first one on the stairs here. Although it does say Bad Omen 3, and I'm not sure why it's Bad Omen 3 to be completely honest, but let's get some more. So I flew away to despawn everyone, and when I came back, immediately saw a new captain. Let's take care of him real quick. There we go. I think they always drop a bottle, by the way. I don't think it's random chance. Oh, there's another one around the corner here. That's good. And after axing a few more captains, I had at least one of every level bottle. Still not sure how that works, though. But you can see that I've got all the different levels right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. That's fine. I got them all. Also, pillagers have something wrong with them, but I'm not sure how I want to report this bug. What's happening is that when you shoot a pillager who's about to shoot you, even if they end up being a long way away when they fall, they still hit you. You already saw it earlier in the video, but here's a clear example. The wiki says he'll shoot me from 8 blocks away. He hits me from over 20 here. His shot seems to be calculated from where he was standing when he pulled back the bow, not where he fired from. Just be careful. Alright, I collected a few more bottles of Bad Omen and we can head to the trial chamber now. So where do I have to go? I got scammed. This map is empty. That cartographer scammed me! Okay, I knew this could happen, but the closest trial chamber is still within the chunks that I didn't trim. That means the first villager is sending me to a chamber that doesn't exist because this world was started in 1.20. I did show him the scam map he sold me and I tried to return it. He wouldn't give me my money back, so I escorted him off the premises myself. Out. Get out. Go. Out. Go. Fortunately, last episode I moved around 50 villagers in here with no trades locked in. Easy enough to get another cartographer set up. The way it works is each one gives you the next closest trial chamber, so I knew this villager would give me a map to a new one. Alright, here we go. This is it, and there is a trial chamber on this one. Let's go. Looks like it's northeast, and that's this way. While I fly over and mine myself into the trial chamber, let's talk about them. There are trial spawners in there, and each one will spawn one of 11 different mobs. You can tell which mob they're going to spawn by the ground pattern around them as shown here. Breeze and Bogged are the two new mobs. Breeze are like blazes but wind powered, and Bogged are strays but poison powered. I'm just going to dig straight down as I normally do, too wide to be safer, but yeah, we're just going to go in and get in there. If you're unfamiliar, these chambers are made of a lot of copper and tough blocks, in fact thousands of them. Mining one of these out is probably faster than any copper farm, including the one I already have in the world, so there is that. Also, the trial chambers will have the new copper grates, doors, and trapdoors around them, so you can see some of the new blocks in action, so to speak. Everything in here is also wax, so if you want that, it's great, and if not, you'll need to unwax them. You can also unwax the copper bulbs like this, and they'll provide a lot more light that way. You don't have to do that though, as no mobs other than trial chamber mobs will spawn in this structure, kind of like the ancient city. And this is one of the new ominous vaults up here. I do know a bit about these because I'm not a go in blind and figure it out kind of person. I did play through some of the snapshots, so I'm not going to pretend to be amazed and awed, but I can explain what I do know already as I go. And I do know that vault needs a blue ominous key from drinking the bad omen bottle and then fighting a spawner. The vaults with the orange line below the mouth use the normal trial keys. They have quite different loot, and they're in two new trims, but you need both kinds of vaults, not just the good one. So we're going to run everything in here that we can. And it looks like the first one that I ran into is a slime spawner. I'll start slowly with these, we'll take them one by one, and then we'll speed through them later. I really don't want anything falling on me from above while I do this as well. I can activate other spawners that are above me if I get too high. And all I have to do from this is kill every slime that spawns, and then pick up the first trial key right there. You don't actually see it happen, I was too close to the spawner. I didn't realize this, so I sat there like a dope for a minute waiting for it to give me a key that I already had. And our first trial vault is this one. You'll see when I get close that there's orange on it, and that matches the key we have. Let's try it and see what we get. Iron, arrows, and an iron chest plate. Okay, that's bad loot. Best thing I got from that was the advancement. You'll find a lot of these chests all over the trial chamber. They're there because you get so much trash loot. At least that's what the room designer told us on a live stream. Inventory sorting were the words he used. Trash loot is my words. And this is a bigger room where we'll get a little bit of our first oh, okay, this is a little bit chaotic. Okay, we got Bogged and Breeze in here. Both new mobs after me at once right here. The poison doesn't seem too bad with full prot 4 armor, to be honest. It did spawn a lot at once. I feel like the slime spawner gave me 1 or maybe 2 slimes at a time, but I'm fighting 3 Bogged and a couple of Breeze at the same time here. And running to heal is always a good option in the trial chambers. Throughout the trial chamber, I'll need to back out and restart a few fights, but as I do, I want to be as aggressive as I can when I can. Ah, right, no arrows. He bounces them back at you. Let's go then. It's kind of an interesting mechanic that he can bounce your arrows back at you, but like that, you can bounce his back at him as well, kind of like a ghast. There's even an advancement for him if you kill him with it. I tried a few times here, but we'll have to get it later. Stab, stab. Let's see what you give me. Oh, right. There's more. Come here so I can kill you. Okay, you're done.
Huh?
Bread. I got bread. The spawners in here will start every 30 minutes, so while the slime one's on cooldown, let's go find a new one. There's another one. Oh, chestplate red. I'm gonna be honest, if you had $1 for every time I should have worn my chestplate in these trial chambers but started the fight with my elytra, you wouldn't need to work for a few years. What the heck? Why is that pot invisible? Those seem to be the new clay pots, but new update, new mods, I guess. Somehow I got too close to a spider spawner, so now we're fighting 2 at once. I see the key from the slime, so we should be done with that one. I need to fix that texture pack issue, but let's deal with these spiders first. All that for 1 piece of cooked chicken. Our loot's getting a bit out of control already, so let's get more. Diamond, arrows, honey, and more arrows. That's not as bad. The honey's nice. Honey removes poison the same as a bucket of milk. I think a lot of people are going to forget that, but fighting all the Bogged down here, that's going to be really nice. Bogged will probably be the worst mob to fight if you aren't max armor. And I still see these invisible pots, so let's fix that. Turns out it wasn't my texture pack, it's the enhanced block entity mod that helps speed up the game. Unfortunately, it enhances pots to be invisible if there's a lot in one area, like there are in the trial chamber, so I'm going to have to turn that off for now. Let's go find a pot now. I think I see some down there. Yep, they're working now. Awesome. Okay, this is different. There are 2 vaults here on the wall. I can hear the trial spawner oh, the spawners are above us. This room's cool. I like it. Is there a way up, or do I have to make my own? I think I have to make my own. All right. I see the mushrooms for the spawner right there, so let's get into this. Ow, that was easy. Okay, so now I'm only getting 1 Bogged per time that the spawner spawns a mob. That's what I had the first time with the slimes. I'm not really sure how it works. All right, that was too easy. Could you spawn something? Oh, he missed me. Fighting one Bogged at a time in full prot 4 armor feels like overkill. A little bit too easy. Oh, I've started the one above me. I'm pretty sure I can take 2 Bogged at a time. The poison's a little bit annoying, but the rest is fine. Since I'm unbothered by these fights, I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to say here. Oh no, there's more spawning. They've done a half a heart of damage. Oh, almost a full heart. Oh, hold on. I've got a few more to take out. Now we wait. Okay, hold on. Oh no, I'm in trouble, guys. Oh, so much danger. Oh, there's a key down there. I'll get it in a second. Got it. Oh, he wanted to hurt me, but my thorns probably did more damage to him than he did to me. Sorry, I'll try and take this seriously. We got a second key. Let's go. Looks like there are 2 more spawners above. What's that make? 4 in this area? That's actually pretty good. I should trigger them all at once next time, though, maybe. I don't mean to make fun of this, but watch my health. I get hit. I'm losing no health. I get hit again. No health. Oh, there's another one. No health lost. Bogged would be pretty deadly in the early to mid game. I don't want to, you know, downplay how deadly they could be, and people will lose worlds to this, but I'm not going to. I would say for most people, a shield to block the arrows is probably more valuable than the totem in my offhand. Okay, we did get 3 total keys out of that. Let's open this one at the top. Honey bottle and an enchanted axe. Okay, let's try the 2 at the bottom then. Emeralds and a shield. And that's it? Wind charge and an enchanted book. Okay, what is this? Efficiency 1. Wow. Okay, so let's just be clear. I'm 5 vaults in and everything is instantly in the trash. These are going to get better, right? I did start the next one and forgot my chest plate. That's not a good idea. A quick retreat got everything back on track, but I do really need to remember my chest plate. It makes these way easier. Okay, so what's coming from this one? We got a key here, a vault here, and banner pattern. Okay, emeralds, I guess, and arrows, and a honey bottle, and an enchanted axe. Not the worst. Okay, the trials were good, but a little too easy. Let's try an ominous trial this time. Does this work the same way, basically? Yeah, okay. Cool, so this doesn't initially seem that much harder. It's just slimes. Is it just more enemies? I don't really have answers to some of these questions yet, but let's just kill all these guys for now. Oh, I see the potion effect that just dropped. What is that, weaving? So when an enemy dies in that, what, you spawn a cobweb? I think having renewable cobwebs is really interesting. Cobwebs are nice to use in builds, and not having to go to a mesa or a mineshaft every time you want some is good. We'll be able to make a cobweb farm, probably. Ow. Okay, so I think we're done with that. What do we get this time? It is cooked steak. Okay, let's speed this along then. Okay, so what I've realized is when the ominous trials are spawning potions or fire or arrows on you, and you're spawning extra slime or cobwebs with the potion effects, and there's 2 or 3 bogged on you, plus a couple of breeze and a giant slime spawns on you, things can get a little bit dicey. But if you just take your time, these are pretty straightforward, the same as the regular trials. That's cooked steak again, and again, and again. Okay, let's see what this first ominous key gets me. At least the loot should be better in these upgraded vaults. New advancement, nice, and wind charge, wind charge. That's it? Oh my god, this is gonna take forever. Okay, last vault in this trial chamber. Let's see what we get. Arrows, wind charges, emeralds, and an iron chest plate. Let's collect our loot and go home and see what we got. Actually, before I leave this one, I'm just going to mark it. I'll probably come back here later. I didn't have quite enough keys to finish it. And so what do we get? Some shards, banner patterns, one of the new discs, some copper stuff, some breeze rods, and some wind charges. I do need to make at least one of each item for the auto sorter, and despite mostly trash loot, copper's coming along well, so is tough. I also did manage to get a bunch of the new advancements. Let's get these into the system real quick like. Okay, that scared the crap out of me. You didn't think I was done, right? Let's run another one. I've still got a ton to find. This one looks like it's due east. I'll see you over there. Wait, is it on this plus? I'm glad my seed's public. You guys can check this out for yourselves. Look, y'all, I'm just gonna be honest with you, okay? I had a big plan of everything I wanted to talk about, things I was gonna say, but it's really hard to make fighting generic and easy mobs for mostly below average loot look fun and interesting. So let's just speed through the actual part where I do this. I am now back at home with my new mace. It's time to get that thing enchanted and ready for its one use, and then I can put it away never to be used again. I really want to like this update. Alright, I'm up to the XP farm where I can roll some of the other enchantments we need. I need to get something onto this mace. I've already got a Density 5 book. Unbreaking 3 and Breach would be great, but Breach can't be combined with Density, so that's not going to work. Let's grab a Mending book here and the Windburst 1 from earlier. And then I can put Unbreaking and Mending together, and then the mace with the book. Yep. And then we'll put Windburst and which way does this go? Okay, that way. And then these two together and just like that. Well, now we have a great mace. Let's go smack someone on the head. Hi guys. Do you like Okay, that's the problem right there. Do you really want to be dropping on enemies from high above and if you hit them one dies? And if you don't, you're the one taking damage? I can just bow this guy and only he can die that way. All right, let's get this over with. Don't get me wrong, that was fun when it hits, and it's over 50 hearts of damage, but will I use that in everyday situations? I don't know. I thought rather than using every villager in the trading hall, why don't we get a new map from out here in the desert near our tropical fish farm? And this first guy has a trial map, while the other one unfortunately did not. That's okay, we have one, let's go find a trial chamber. This time when I dug down, I ended up in this powder snow room, so I thought I'd show you a trick I prepared earlier. Bring water buckets for these things for lots of reasons, but here's one. Water buckets can basically instantly remove the danger that these rooms pose. Getting stuck in powdered snow and freezing while you're slowed by a stray can be problematic, but one water bucket is your entire counter. Once we've done a few chambers, you've kind of got the idea, right? Fight some mobs, get some keys, gather the loot, and then cry about how bad it is. Okay, getting the first armor trim is a nice find. Getting free tridents like we did earlier is never bad, and we're definitely stacking up on wind charges and breeze rods, pots, shards, candles, all that stuff. Still hate getting bread when I finish a spawner though. I think if I had to rate these trial chambers, fighting a bunch of mobs at once is fun, but it's a bit too controlled sometimes. Let's do one more chamber while I talk about it. Also, that's my third heavy core. Somebody's gonna be mad. See, I can choose when and which mobs to fight, and there are lots of ways to stay safe, like ladders, gaps they can't cross to get to me, and the traps do nothing if you're in Prot 4 armor. Honestly, it's just a bit of work for the stuff that I actually want. The loot's okay sometimes. I won't ever complain about new armor trims. That's great, I love those. Pot shards are fine, I guess. I do like the new smashable pots. And the mace is pretty risk reward. Some people will love it, but it'll probably stay in my shulker unless I'm doing something specific, kind of like the trident does now. The ominous trials are a lot of fun because it's a lot more chaotic. The extra potion effects, arrows, and fire raining down on you is definitely more to think about. Not deadly, but dangerous, which makes it fun to play. And don't get me wrong, some people will die to this. If you go in without Prot 4 armor, if you forget your chest plate, if you step in the powdered snow, if you get yourself into a little bit of trouble and you don't heal up quickly enough, there are ways you can die in there. But for the most part, if you die in there, it's a skill issue. I'm just being honest. I really enjoy playing through the chambers, but when all's said and done, I think the copper and tough are the main reasons to come. Completely decimating a chamber for every block would be pretty wicked, but once I have both trims and all 3 discs, why would I ever come back at the moment? Here's an example of the baby zombies not being able to get to me. There's just a gap. Oh, I let him get to me. Oh no, Philza, run! Do you know what the unironic most dangerous part of these chambers is? If you have the weaving effect, the cobwebs, spawn near a slime spawner and you get stuck in it, and that slime jumps on your head. That'll kill you quick. Also, the new music discs seem fine. I don't know if playing them will get me in trouble, as occasionally it has, so I won't do that on here, but you should listen to them on your own. And I do love the new copper uses. I don't want to skip over this. The grates, the copper bulbs, the doors, the trapdoors, they're all very cool. The new polished tuff is an amazing block to build with. I'm going to enjoy that. The new mobs are very interesting. The breeze is especially fun to fight. It doesn't really hurt you though, so it's maybe, yeah, a bit easy. I certainly wasn't scared during my time in the trial chambers so far, but I can see which parts would trouble most people and which parts would be harder earlier in the game. Probably what I disliked the most is how I found it fairly easy, but also the sheer amount of junk loot you get. I'm glad the level designer did include a bunch of spare chests around the place just to throw the trash, but honestly you'd have to be taking this on very early in a world for spare bread, baked potatoes, and whatnot to be useful. And if you have to design trash cans into your new structure, maybe there's too much crappy loot. I do understand this isn't for where I am in the game, but this is where I am in the game, so I have to play it, right? Where I think this would be fun is in the first 100 days of a world, rather than the mid to end game. You get things like arrows and bows and crossbows and diamond axes and some spare food. I did pick up a couple of spare notch apples, which is nice. I was kind of bummed that I fought 5 trial chambers and didn't get the second armor trim yet. I was watching a few of my friends take on the trial chambers over on Twitch, and both had multiple of both trims before I got any. Although it took one of them 3 hours to find a heavy core, and I had 3 by then, so I guess it all works out. I filled up my auto sorter with the drops so I can automatically sort everything that's new in 1.21 into my storage already. The storage is the center of my whole world, so that felt pretty necessary. And when I took on the first trial chamber, I didn't have enough keys, so now that I have a few extra, I wanted to go back in and finish looting. This is the first one. You remember that I marked this. We're just going to drop some water in here and get ourselves back down in. The only thing I didn't have so far was the new trim from the Ominous Vaults, and the very first thing I got from this vault was the new trim. I thought about leaving immediately, but ended up fighting my way through another entire trial chamber, this time with some of the ominous effects as well, getting some new keys, getting some new loot, and yeah, just having a little bit more fun. Duplicating trims requires probably exactly what you'd expect. It's copper blocks for the bolt trim and breeze rods for the flow trim. I don't want to talk about how diamond poor I still am in this world. That quad perimeter I'm going to be making is going to solve that, so don't worry about that. Just know that right now I am very, very diamond poor. So the first thing I did was duplicate the original trim so I could put my first copy in the armory. And they can go here next to the others on the wall. And I'll eventually build a set of netherite armor for them, so I grabbed 4 of each extra trim as well. Next time I think I'm going to play with the other main part of the update, which is the Autocrafters. We're going to add those to some of our farms and see how they all work. That should be pretty fun. Wait, what? Oh, okay, so this is broken now too? I guess I know what we're doing today. Last time we raided trial chambers for hours, but the iron farm has now run out of shulkers. Yeah, that's a lot. And it looks like the overflow is, overflowing. Crafting blocks by hand? Yeah, that's ending today. Hey Google, what's the opposite of struggle?
Effortless, requiring no physical or mental exertion.
Last time I found the trial chambers effortless looting fun, but they're only part of the 121 update. Today I think it would be a good idea to tackle the Autocrafter. The Autocrafter recipe won't automatically pop up if you have an older world that you're upgrading, so just pick up a dropper, iron, and redstone to get it, and we can make our first. This lovely grumpy face is the new Autocrafter. Kind of a cool block actually. When you right click it, you can see the first part of what it can do. I can lock these slots to create shapes for crafting recipes. It's going to be useful for crafting things like doors, tools, and other shapes. And before we get too far into this, let me just show you a few of the Autocrafters from what I've collected in the last 8 months since it was announced. This first one here is an extremely simple example of how crafters work. I won't be building this one today, but the comparator reads the signal from the crafter. When the total output is 9, or full crafter, it crafts whatever's inside, and log slots count as 1, so in this example I'd need 6 more items to fill it. And if I put 8 ingots in here, you'll see that nothing happens. It's 1 away from the end on this redstone line, but when I put a 9th in, it'll immediately craft into a block of iron and spit it out the front. One simple crafter I do want to do today is this 1, 2, or 3 slot crafter. And this is an option-based crafter that lets you choose to craft with 1, 2, or 3 slots without locking anything else. So if I put that single block of iron back in here, you'll see it'll craft ingots immediately. When I change the selector to 2 slots, inputting 1 iron ingot does nothing, it just sits there. When I add a second, that'll craft into heavy pressure plates. And a better example of this would be planks, where 3 make slabs, 2 makes pressure plates, and 1 makes a button. This is a 9-slot crafter that inputs the items one at a time from 9 different chests, so you can craft literally anything in the game with this one. I'll build this later and then remove it, but we'll get to that. Ideally, this would be a great way to craft dispensers, if it worked. And this is a very basic setup for autocrafting, using 2 crafters, one with all the slots locked that a comparator then reads, pointing into the side of another comparator, with the output of that powering the crafter. Probably the most basic version of autocrafting that most people will use. Ultimately, there's a lot of ways to use this. Let's go get into it. Let's start by adding autocrafters to farms. We're going to need some comparators, some redstone repeaters, a bit of this, a bit of that, and I can craft up a second autocrafter for the comparator output. The iron farm is obviously first on my list so we can avoid the earlier problems. For the moment, I'm going to set up that simple crafter to show you how we could do this if full automation wasn't our goal. This is a very easy way to get your farms going with just autocrafters nearby. It's that crafter with the comparator out the back and a crafter with a comparator going into the side of that one. A full block here, a block over the top, redstone, redstone, and redstone, and we are done. Let's add a hopper there and a chest there for input, and then the output can come to this chest here. And I'll add a shulker of ingots, and every time you see it fill up with 9 ingots, it's going to craft. I'm not going to keep this one here, it's just a temporary solution to a problem, but it's an example of how simple the autocrafter is to use at the basic level. And even though this one's temporary, I'm going to move it inside the loaded chunk so I can move around the world with no problem. I think I'm best to make a shulker of autocrafting related items and just carry that around while we do these. I've made 32 crafters and grabbed a bunch of other related components, then some barrels and chests will help as well. That'll do, let's go back. And this simple autocrafter is going well so far. You can see that this is a solution. Not a good one, not an automated one, but for people who are really scared to mess with redstone, just do this for now. It's still better than crafting it yourself. I've blocked off the farm so we can work in peace, and with that, we're ready to build our first automated crafter. I added a double chest here so there's a bit of a buffer. I can add items manually if I want to input ingots like the 27 shulkers we had earlier on or other iron. This is basically the same setup as the one below otherwise. And I'll show you this one working now at double the speed of the one below. This isn't sped up, this is the actual speed. That's the autocrafting for this. Let's do a quick shulker loader and call this one done. I've used this shulker loader about 30 times in this world already, so I won't explain it. I am going to turn the output to the side here so I can add a lot more storage than a simple barrel that it usually has. Just like that, we're done though. We can load it up with the extra ingots that I had from earlier. And since I know someone's going to ask, I'm moving items with item scroller mod. Not that that'll keep people from asking. So after the golems fall in the lava, drops from them fall through the powdered snow and onto the item pusher where they're shoved over the filtered hoppers, down through these hoppers, into this double chest, into the autocrafter, and the blocks will end up in the shulker loader below. I waited here for a few minutes so we could see the first box come through, and when the shulker is full it's broken and put into this chest. Is this where we celebrate? I don't usually get here on the first try. Alright, that's how it works. Let's go add it to some of our other most important farms. With the sugarcane farm, it's not about saving space. 3 shulkers of cane is 3 shulkers of paper. What we're saving is the crafting time here. And there we go. That'll save us a bunch of time now. I thought about what to do with the cobblestone farm. I make 1 million cobblestone per hour. We have enough to do something that I think would be wicked cool. What I want to do here is have the cobblestone run into autocrafters and from there into shulker loaders, but have the autocrafters first craft everything that cobblestone can make, so I'd end up with shulkers of blocks, slabs, stairs, walls. But I can't do all that today, so I think we'll save that for later. Same with the bamboo farm. The next one I do want to do is this copper farm. I don't know how much we'll use this now because of the sheer amount of copper in trial chambers and the fact it's way easier to mine than use this farm, but I'd like to make it so when we do use this farm it's set up the best it can be. Let's skip the build. It's very much like the others with the same crafter the iron farm uses, just a 3-wide version here instead of 2. When copper enters the water stream, it'll be crafted into blocks as before. That was fairly painless and should save us some time. Let's go move on to the last of our small auto crafting projects. I want to work on the slime farm. I think all the small crafters are done now. Let's go work on something bigger. It's definitely worth topping up our supplies for this next project. The day auto crafting was announced, I remember talking with friends about the possibilities and where it would fit best. The iron farm's a natural fit, so is the wither skeleton farm, the cobblestone farm, and the guardian farm, but the one I heard more than any other was turning gold nuggets into blocks. If you're only going to add one autocrafter to your world, make it the one on your gold farm. I used to hate running this farm, but now I love running this farm. I could literally do nothing but run the gold farm and be totally happy, because now I get ingots or blocks instead of all the stupid nuggets that I have to craft, and it's so much better. Sure, the iron farm saves you time, but if you're going from ingots to blocks, it's one craft. 9 shulkers of ingots going into 1 shulker in a reasonable amount of time. But if you want 1 shulker of gold blocks, that's going to take 81 shulkers of nuggets, crafted into 9 shulkers of ingots, crafted into that 1 shulker of blocks, and that's 140,000-ish nuggets. Then you have to remove them from storage, craft 250 times to make the ingots, and then craft them again into blocks. It's painful and makes this farm not always that fun to use. My plan here is to use those triple input autocrafters from the copper farm to feed into 6 different autocrafters. That means I don't have to totally remove Dashpum's original storage for this farm. 6 sets of crafters can handle 18 hopper inputs, which is enough. The last one will be for ingot overflow. Once those 6 crafters make ingots, I'm going to pass it to a shulker loader. I could make blocks from here, but my own primary use is to use the bartering farm that's nearby. I'll have several options for block crafting by the end of this video, so if I do want blocks out of it, I can easily grab an inventory of shulkers of ingots and make the blocks quickly from there. Drops will get pushed down onto the staircase, forced towards storage. The slime pusher will then shove them over the filtered hoppers and into the crafters below. Now this farm is fun to use. After that, I quickly put this rocket crafter together in my main storage area. These rockets will go into a chest that I have access to on the other side, so I always have a supply handy now. With the Autocrafter work coming along well, I decided to take a break and work on that background project that I mentioned last episode. I'm working on making a 528 by 528 block perimeter to hold a double witch farm, and some surprises I haven't talked about yet. In order to do that, I needed to take down the old obsidian farm, since this won't work in 121 anyways. One of the many casualties of upgrading, I guess. I removed this so I could quickly re-add a version of the old massive chest system that we had here before. And I need to get a lot, and I mean a lot of sand for this perimeter project, so I'll need to turn on the duper I set up ages ago. Once that ran and I got sand, it was time to put it into action. I need to create a 4 wide outside and then a 4 wide inside wall all the way around the entire huge area. The walls will allow me to drain the water between it so the first of our 2 machines can run here. The first machine is called a trencher, and basically it does just that. It's going to make trenches on all 4 sides of the perimeter, and those trenches will go from the ground level all the way to bedrock. In order for them not to get stuck and run into issues, I need to drain these top bits. Fun times for me that I had to place this over the ocean, right? Then I use this piston pusher to get started. This is the easiest little redstone contraption. All it does is push sand in a straight line and create a wall out of that. I had to remove all of the kelp below so when sand falls on it, it doesn't instantly break, but that's not too much work. I did swap to Tweakaroo's face placement after a while, as I found that was better and a little bit faster. Placing 4 walls of sand, however, took me hours. I occasionally fought drowns with tridents, including that one that dropped me his. I also cleared trees along the parts of the area that were not in the ocean. The lower I get these trenchers to start, the faster the whole thing will run. And after that, it was basically place sand, run the sand duper, place more sand, run the duper again, and so on until I had enough to complete the outline both inside and out. I've now placed nearly 110,000 sand all in this area. That's 1,700 stacks, or over 63 shulkers of sand, just to make this outline. I spent a little time lowering the trenches so I can run a little water remover later and mostly get this drained. A few sponges after that and we should be on track. How long was I away? Well, long enough to get over 4 shulkers of iron blocks. That's a lot of iron. So that was our perimeter progress for the week. I'll upload some of the footage to the Long Place channel just so you can see it if you want. This should be our last roundup without replay mod as well, as it just came out. Now let's get to today's build. Replay mod, how we've missed you in the weeks you weren't out. This area is going to be for a new addition to our city, the crafting house. For hundreds of years around the 12th century in feudal Japan, guilds, called za, monopolized the production, transportation, and sale of specific merchandise, services, and trades. Over 80 of these guilds were organized by the mid-1300s, including blacksmiths, carpenters, musicians, dancers, and in our world at least, those who specialized in the production and refinement of goods via machinery. And this area here will be for the build. This is a very large build for these guild houses, but I need to fit all the crafters I want inside, so it had to be a fairly good size. I'll put the front door here. And while I start building, I'm going to need to plant a bunch of mangrove trees nearby. I need a mangrove farm soon, though. Alright, that's looking pretty decent to start. There's still a bit of terraforming work here, but I want to get started inside the house on the auto-crafting setups. My plan is to put a couple machines on this side of the main room here, and then a couple more over on this side, and then upstairs I'll put that 9-wide craft anything machine as a fallback when we need harder to craft recipes. First of all, let's add a lever to these 2 out front. I won't use these 2 myself, but I like the idea that people could just walk up for a little self-service auto-crafting. Inside I have that 1, 2, and 3 item selector. This will be great for mass crafting buttons, planks, trapdoors, dyes, and much more. And next to that is a set of 4 simple crafters where I can craft any one item type recipe from dyes to blocks. And upstairs is indeed that 9-wide crafter, but I need to show you a technical issue. This is the same machine in a creative world. Inside of the 5th and then the 8th hopper, you'll see the bow and the redstone. This is set up to craft dispensers, of course. When I push a button to start the machine, it adds items in the wrong order. As you can see, the redstone and the bow are very wrong. But if I remove the hoppers and then re-add them starting from the crafter, I don't want to cut this so you can see this. Nothing else has changed. Let me push the button again. Sorry, this is going to take a second. I didn't want to cut here. I want you to see this whole thing. Nothing in there. Push that. And it goes in the right order. And keeps working after that. So that's all good, right? Everything's working. It's fixed. No. Let's close the game. Reopen the game. And it's broken again. Weird, but it has a name. It's called hopper hashing, and this is a bit silly. So hoppers are random, and hopper transfer order is random. I can't even report this as a bug because this is just the way it works. I don't even know anymore. So yeah, that machine will never work as intended. I have a few ideas for fixes, but we're gonna just fix it when we want to use it, for now at least. This is a 3-item recipe machine. It's great for things like N crystals and auto turns itself off when one of the hoppers below is empty, so it's great for bulk. And this one is just a speed crafter. It ticks very quickly, so it's great for what we're calling uncrafting, or making ingots out of blocks, dyes out of flowers, planks out of logs, etc. Let's change up these banners a bit. I want to add flow pattern to them. I put it on the pottery and I think it's a good fit for the build. I really love the colors in this city still. And I'm really happy with the curve on this roof. My first one was the villager hall and it's way too triangular and straight. I was very happy at the time with the up and down variation in the roof and didn't focus on these corners. The sun temple, I pushed it as hard as I could and I got a nice looking curve out of it, but it's a temple. It's about as extreme as I want it to go. So this one's more of a bit in between. Kinda looks like the edge of a piece of paper flipped up, which is the look I wanted. And this roofline is looking pretty good for someone of my build skills as well. I'm very happy with that and these little gaps that I left in here. I think that came out pretty cool. Let's do a quick bit of crafting. I'm only doing some small tests here, but I wanted to make droppers, iron blocks, craft some flowers into dyes, make up some N crystals, and just show a bit of how all this works. When I get this done, we have just one more thing to do. I improved all of the crafters as I went through, just adding some storage, input chests, and a few tweaks. Then I set up the 123 crafter to turn some flowers into dye before doing the same on the fast crafter. N crystals were easy to set up, and then the first round of iron blocks were finished as well. Having all this new infrastructure will certainly make the city building even more productive. You ever have that one friend who just comes through all the time? So I was done with this episode and complaining to my friend commviewAU about how the 9-wide crafter was breaking, and he decided to whip up a new and better universal crafter for us. Just like that. He was done so quickly that I put the next episode on hold to come back here and get this done for you, and now we can end this episode on a high note. One sec. So essentially when I flip this lever, the observer will come down and power the repeaters behind it. They will power each of the droppers in turn, which will send the items into the water stream in order, and into this crafter here, which puts finished items into this double chest. The full crafter then sends the signal through this block, into the comparator, and over this redstone line back to the block that powers the crafter, and then it crafts the item. At the same time, when this redstone gets powered, the observer notes that, powers the rails, which powers the top observer and makes the whole thing start again. I'm going to add powder snow under each dropper, and then after grabbing a shulker of all the required materials for dispensers, I can unload into the double chest below, and the bows are obviously the hardest thing to get for the dispensers, so I'm just going to manually craft those for now, but we can set up a bow crafter later up here. And I've let this run for a bit to test it, and now I can show you a working 9-slot universal crafter. So please go give commviewAU a follow on YouTube to encourage him to post more of his work maybe. He definitely deserves it. That's it for today. We added autocrafters to a bunch of farms, built a guild house for even more, and eventually built a universal crafting system for every item in the game.
Yep, that's me.
Listen, I can let's get into the video, huh? Today I'm going to build a river gate and a harbor port district for our spawn city. This will serve as the trade and export hub for the region. We're going to deepen the riverbed, put 2 ships here with one in the river, and one just outside a large gated entrance. Before this episode, I actually talked to a lot of my friends about quitting the world. I haven't had those thoughts in a while, and it's all because of this episode, so I hope you guys enjoy this one. 2 towers will sit at the front with large signal fires on top to light the way, and the harbor will be lined with a variety of shops, lights, cranes, storage areas, and little details. We'll also catch up on the quad perimeter project and check a few advancements off the list. I'm starting with the terraforming so we have a place to put the watchtowers. 2 large wooden doors will hang off of those and give us a good basis for the size of ship that could get down this river. Terraforming along the riverbanks will also help us find a consistent height for a wooden dock area. The riverbed is very shallow through most of this area, so we'll extend that down another 3 to 5 blocks almost everywhere, as well as expanding the actual width of the river itself at the same time. In a few areas where there are ravines in the river, I hope to block those up and create a more consistent bottom surface. My idea for the riverbanks is to mostly make them flat at one common level and then step up or down as needed away from the centers. That may not work out perfectly, but taking the time to remove an extra layer or two of grass and dirt will make all the difference. I don't want the harbor to be perfectly flat, but it'd be silly if it went up and down height levels like every 3 to 5 blocks too. I also think it'd be a good idea to set kind of an ideal width for the harbor and work from that. I kind of want to keep it somewhere between, let's say, 9 and 15 blocks wide. Any less than 9 and we aren't going to have room to put a shop and still walk past it easily. Any more and it's just unlikely to look even remotely filled in when I'm done with this project. Working in the city means it's very easy to use our trading hall as a way of repairing tools. I'm using all the iron I have to trade for emeralds, then those emeralds to trade for redstone and quartz. Without the void trader, keeping these things going is not only good for tool durability, but also giving me just a little bit extra here and there. After settling on something like this for the river and riverbanks, I finished repairing everything at the gold farm and started resource gathering for today's builds. Have I mentioned that I need tree farms soon? I know the CNX04 tree farm was amazing back in episode 3, but we're closer to 23 now, so it's not so hot anymore. This farm produces in the 10 to 15k logs per hour range, and every time I run it for 40 minutes to an hour, and I'm still always poor on logs. So one day soon we're going to build some tree farms, and by build some tree farms, let's just say I'm going all out on that project and I've been planning it for over 6 months. While I was gathering resources, I decided to gather the Autocrafter advancement since I didn't last time. Someone pointed out how easy this would be, and it is. And while I was doing that one, I saw another one we could easily get, and it's going to take about 2 seconds. Let's just go over here to our enchanting room. We have a chiseled bookshelf already here. It's block, comparator, advancement, and that one's pretty free. Okay, let's do the item collection bits. I've moved the resources for the first 2 towers down where they'll go, but before we get to building, let's catch up on the perimeter project. This week at the perimeter, I was offered a choice. I need to drain 4 trenches and then build the flying machine dupers that will break all the blocks. I could drain 1 trench and then build and run the TNT machine, drain another trench and then build and run the TNT machine, or I could drain all 4 trenches this week and run lots of TNT through all 4 edges next week. I chose that. So today we'll catch up on the progress of draining all 4 trenches in the perimeter. The first thing to do is lower each trench down to a common Y level. This will let me run the next machine smoothly and much further down, so a little extra digging goes a long way at this point. Flying back and forth to repair a gear a few times told me that we probably need a blue ice boat path out to the perimeter, but I'll do that another time. Yeah, okay, very soon. After I got back, I set up and ran some water sweepers. It's a very simple flying machine that basically goes back and forth removing water as it gets replaced by the sweeper bar. At the end of each row, it lowers itself by 1 block like this. And while that works, I removed as much kelp as I could from inside where the World Eater will go. I don't want kelp to break the World Eater's water sweeper. At least that's what I did when I wasn't watching this flying machine. It's super satisfying to watch work. I spent way too much time just watching this. The sweepers do quite a lot of the draining, but eventually they hit the bottom where I had evened out the lands. I still had a lot of draining to do, so I placed more internal walls, then committed to sponge spam to try and remove the rest of the water. And yes, I know there are better ways to do this, but sponge spam is fun. So I just had fun. Let me have fun. This was another huge revelation for me. I think one of the reasons I was thinking about quitting the world is I wasn't having fun. So I just started doing things that were more fun, like this, the map art later. A lot of the projects that I do from here on out are just going to be more fun because they're more fun. The sweeper I'm using can be rebuilt fairly quickly, so whenever I found a deep section, I squared it off, ran the sweeper, and continued from there. The small trenches are pretty easy to sponge out and a little bit of fun, and then I finished the swamp area in the back corner and the first trench was dry. Trench number 1 is done and the backside is almost exclusively overland, so that was very light work to finish as well. And the rest of the work followed the same pattern: level out the seafloor, run sweepers, sponge out the last bits of water, and repeat. All 4 trenches are now dry, the kelp is completely removed from the inside the perimeter, and we're ready to build some TNT bombers next time. Before this quick catch-up becomes too long, let's get back to the city and get to work. The 2 watchtowers have to be in here first. They guide the rest of the build. I wanted to make sure the entrance was lit and protected, and these will do the job. I like how the stone, the red, and the gold all work together without being too obnoxious. And the large wooden gate I've built here will allow the city to be closed off if necessary and open when possible. One ship will be out in this open water area, but this is a larger ship and I'll need to open up this ground a bit more as well. Okay, full send, full send, full send, full send. Woo! First try, too easy. Easy-ish. This is a good example of where I want the harbor wall to be. I don't want it right up against the water as I plan to do some final tweaks to the whole city later, and when the builds are all in, I want to leave myself room to create a bit of a small cliff here. I'll add the whole wall on both sides in stone brick first, then we can go back and texture with mossy cobble, mossy stone bricks, and even a bit of plain stone. And then if I can wrap the stone wall around the terrain and keep it a bit natural looking, that would be for the best. And I decided to add another block to the wall mix as well. I'm going to add some cracked stone bricks in here too. I really love cracked stone bricks and they go quite well with the city hub, the main roads, everything we've already built. Both outlines are set up now so we can work on getting the initial spruce base in place. The main floor will be spruce textured later with stripped spruce, spruce trapdoors, and maybe some coarse dirt. And spruce is just the best looking wood here. It's not too dark like dark oak, and it's not too light like oak plank, you know what I mean. Let's get this floor down and come back to it. This is looking pretty close to exactly what I wanted. The harbor sits not on one level, but on just a few main platforms. The stairs are a bit curved and not boring, and I worked through the night a few times and had some issues with mobs. Started out as just fun and games, shooting a few zombies and creepers, sniping at a few skellies and spiders. Then I got cocky. Somehow I completely whiffed on that sword attack and the creeper blew up part of my harbor. I took it out on this guy. What'd I do? And this one. And this guy. I needed a quick repair, so I hit the gold farm until I had a couple of shulkers of ingots just for fun. Then it was back to work with more resource collecting for shops, lights, and other decor to add onto the build. When you're adding quite a lot of small details, you need quite a lot of different stuff. Most of the time, what I need is inside my storage hall. With over 80 farms in the world and most of our haul full of goodies, it's not often we need to venture out and grab more, but this time I needed terracotta, as well as the yellow and brown variants. And for some reason I'm always out of hay bales. I want a few for the harbor goods and deliveries. I think I'm usually out because of target blocks. Who knew being a redstone heavy player would mean you constantly need wheat? And the thing I had to travel the furthest for, however, is something I should have already had, but somehow forgot to grab. I want a couple of dragon heads. I'm also going to model one of our boats later off of an end ship, so I thought I'd do some research while I was out here and have a quick look at the design. Grabbing a couple of dragon heads was easy. What's never easy for me is going to the end without end raiding. I have an addiction, please send help. Also, as much as I like the orange elytra when it's on me, I hated it in the end ship, so I might change it back at some point, we'll see. Why am I end raiding? So I may have gone to all the lootable areas in both cities that were close by, found a third city and hit that, and then decided it was time to head home. I do have a problem. One more ship won't hurt, right? This is the result of my quick trip to get a dragon head. I ended up with an armor trim, 2 elytra, 6 bits of diamond gear, 8 shulker shells, and more. And it was blue orchids here, homegrown mud made right in storage, stripped spruce at our log stripper, and ferns from the spruce forest, and then I could get back to the building. I lied, I need mangrove. Have I mentioned that I need a good tree farm or 3 soon? I like mangrove, I hate harvesting it. Okay, this area is going to tie into the main road, so we won't worry about that part. Some of this is unnecessary. That's better. I have 7 shulkers of materials just to do 2 ships, the shops, and the rest of the decor, so let's get into this build now. These little lampposts are simple but effective. I'll design some bigger and better main street lamps, but for the corners of the dock and in between shops, this will be a nice way to add an extra little touch. I've placed 5 of these in, and after adjusting how I wanted them to look, was pretty happy. My first shop is a little candle shop. I know that one of the guilds for the main city later will be a candle maker, so having a little shop to showcase their goods on the dock seemed like a really easy decision. As with all or most of these shops, I've added a little bit of storage, a way in and out, and a simple but effective little building that would protect them and the candles from the sun while using mostly leftover woods. A candle shop probably wouldn't be as profitable as, say, an armorer, and they're a little bit less likely to have a big fancy shop. Next, I added this little textile shop. They sell string, wool, banners, and beds. The wool roof is part function and part marketing, as I included looms, storage, and a bit of display of their wares. I added campfires off the roof to look like a little overhang, and it'll keep more of the sun out and finish this build off. Right beside the textile shop is this storage center. The owners here are friendly with their fellow guild members, using a wool roof and displaying some of the first shop's candles. They have a variety of storages, including chests, barrels, ender chests, and the tools on hand to make more. You can already see the alliances starting to form in the city. In between builds, I added a few of these log piles to the harbor for a bit of ambience. I also fought off more mobs, this time without blowing anything up. After building a shop for the smiths, I worked on those bigger lampposts that I mentioned earlier. I wanted these to fit in with the Asian theme that I have going in the city, so we're going to decorate them a bit more than the simple ones from earlier. Adding this little stockpile with barrels, chests, brown shulkers, and other details creates this pile of boxes here. And probably the best box in the game is the bee nest, which looks like it has a handle and a lid. Other little details like this mid-sized cart do the same thing while adding life and movement to the harbor. I've kept all the details in a similar color here, so it isn't a loud piece that distracts, but a nice little detail that'll blend in as we fly around. It wouldn't be a Minecraft dock without a crane or two to unload the boats, would it? I've now added this one here, and we'll add another one just down the dock on the same side over here. Our next stop is a shop that sells shelving and crafting tables, a bit of a feudal age take on the new home organization stores that sell nothing but storage drawers and furniture, I suppose. This is all starting to look like something though. This is my favorite shop and the first one that I designed. I saw the idea somewhere, and it's a swordsmith selling a variety of blades. The handles are a candle on top of an end rod, and it's a perfect look for a small sword. You can easily make these by placing the end rod first, a candle on top, and then removing the end rod and placing it the other way so that the handle goes into the candle. Yeah, try saying that 3 times fast, or once that makes any sense whatsoever. After building a larger separated storage area for a lot more barrels of imports, I got to work on the first of our 2 ships, the riverboat. This design is a twist off Baloo MCW's Japanese kitchen boat. I added this as the first of the 2 ships to the river and then based the second off the color palette for this one. What I wanted in both ships was a lot of detail and enchanting setup, basic survival workstations, a place to sleep and relax, and just a really nice boat to call home for the ship's captain. I also obviously think storage is important. You'll find that both ships have a lot of extra storage. With the ship's hull now in place, I also had a good idea of how deep the river would need to be for this ship to pass through, so I expanded in some of the areas I thought were a bit too narrow or shallow, and that's looking a lot better now. What an awesome little boat this is. Next up was the larger of the 2 boats. This one won't fit up in the river area, so I had to put it out in these more open waters. This ship is based off the end ship that I looked at earlier, and while significantly different in some ways, the entrance and mast locations will feel very familiar, as will the ship's hull. Inside, I've built the captain's quarters with a bed, armor stand, desk, some trophies and trinkets, and a new 121 painting on the wall. The main area is a carpeted lower deck, full level 30 enchanting station, anvil and grindstone, and tons of extra storage. I'm also adding more trade goods like pumpkins and melons, red mushrooms, and more all around the boat. Unlike an end ship, I'm going to add a full sail onto this as well. And this will be my first time ever building a sail, so maybe be just a little bit gentle with me. Once the second ship was built, I had to fly through the gates and down the length of the harbor. This is easily the happiest I've been with one of my builds in a very long time. The amount of life and detail in this build is something I haven't done nearly enough of in the past, and I'm really happy with it so far. And walking on the dock feels really fluid and natural. The paths around and past shops are lively and not yet finished. The cranes and boats add purpose, but honestly my favorite thing was seeing all my previous builds in the background. The arena, the floating island, nether portal, the Buddha statue and the crafter house, the temple, they all contributed to this feeling that there's something here that I care about. When you look at the waterfall, the sentry towers, I don't know, this was the first time in the world that I really felt like I'm excited and happy and proud of all the stuff that I've built in this world so far. But I'm not done. Let's grab some pumpkins and melons, some texturing blocks, and a few other bits so I can really finish strong with this project. Stick around for the full reveal at the end, okay? The finished dock is probably one of my favorite build projects I've ever done. It makes the city feel more possible to me, more real. Seeing all the previous builds as I worked here was really enjoyable, and every detail felt like it matters. The various shops, storages, carts, trolleys, packages, boats, cranes, lights, plants, they all add to the ambience, and it's a really pleasant, not overcrowded walk down each side. The 2 boats feel cozy and have a lot of detail and life on them. There are seats and storage and desks and so much more to see in each one. The gates are everything I wanted them to be, and this whole project makes me feel really excited to keep building the city and see how it all comes together. Here's a final look at the whole build. That's all I have for today. I'm one happy Minecrafter this time. Next time we're going to build a couple of farms and blow some stuff up. In-game. I'll see you then. Hey all, welcome in. I'm Rad and this is my hardcore world. Today I'm going to keep the 1.21 update adventures going with 3 brand new 1.21 farms, a 1.26 farm, and an update on some viewer rewards. But first I need to stop doing this ridiculously long flight. Back in April I made this super fast ice farm, so when I thought about making a blue ice path I came here first. It's an amazing farm, it gets me 72,000 ice per hour, but do you know how much blue ice that is? Not even 1,000. Not even 900. Because blue ice is super expensive. So the other way to get blue ice is to go mine icebergs. The bottom of them often has blue ice, and there are some icebergs that are entirely made of blue ice. After testing both methods, getting blue ice naturally at least once was easier from the ocean, so that's what I did. I kept going until I had 2 full shulkers. That would have taken over 4 hours at the ice farm. Okay, I was not happy about this. The ice farm was one of the builds that almost broke me. It was one of the hardest farms to build in my entire world, and the one time I needed ice, so far in the world, it didn't help me. I was not happy. Okay, I've got coordinates and we're gonna head off this way. I considered a diagonal path, but aligning the boat is weird, and if I nudge them, it breaks. So I decided on a single left-hand turn to get to our faraway portal. The next step was to first lay out the ice path itself. Boats travel a lot faster on blue ice than regular or packed ice, and this trip's pretty far. And if you don't know, we have to come out here pretty regularly because it's my closest double witch hut. And I'm gonna be making a witch farm out here to get redstone in the 1.21 update. Now the raid farms don't work the way they did in 1.20. And once the blue ice was in, I'm going to put walls along both sides of the path. I went with cobblestone because when your cobblestone farm makes 1,000,000 cobblestone per hour, you actively look for things to use cobblestone on. I probably should have also put buttons down and spawn-proofed the path first. If I yell, "Die, hoglins, die!" will I get demonetized? Too late now, guess we'll find out. Building an ice path isn't all that difficult, but placing over 2,500 blue ice, 5,000 walls, and 2,500 buttons definitely took up a bit of time. By the time I was nearly finished the second wall, I was losing my sanity and looking for ways to amuse myself as I walked over 10,000 blocks while building this. And then blackstone looked way better against the blue ice than cobblestone, and while I'm not trying to make the path all that pretty, it definitely worked here. With the path done, it's time to take it for a test ride. I'm going to leave a chest of boats on both ends in case I forget one or forget to put it back when I'm done using it. The flight here currently takes 70 seconds each way, and that's if I aggressively use 16 rockets. It takes over 90 seconds if I don't. The boat path isn't a straight line to this portal, and it still takes far less time at 45 seconds each way and 0 rockets used. I call this the Wii strats. Whee! With that quick project out of the way, it's time to get into something I wanted to do that we won't quite finish today. I want to create a map of my current world, including the main spawn city as well as the Mushroom Island. I made my first map right where I normally stand in storage. It's as good of a place as any, I guess. I'm not going to scale them, I want them all to be this default size. And then for today I'm just going to do a bit of quick mapping, but soon I want to make an entire mapmaker's guild house to house the map and some cartographers. So I flew around making more maps of the area, hit this ridiculous shot, and then kept making more maps. Right now I don't have anywhere to show these, so I'm just going to lay them out flat below my storage. There's a lot of open space here and we can at least see how it's going. I ended up needing quite a few more item frames, but then just got to work on assembling the puzzle. Unfortunately, I'll decide to make one of our new farms down here later, and this will have to move over just a little bit, but it'll do for now. It took a little while, but after figuring out the pieces, this is how the spawn city currently looks. I love seeing the pagoda, the compass rose, the sun temple, the dock, and the ship area. There are a few corners to remap at some point, but they're close. Let's do the Mushroom Island next. Assembling that was a lot easier. It's a smaller map, so let's check it out now. That was a fun little project and a good start at mapping our world. So let's talk about the little blue elephant in the room. I was out scouting an area for our first farm of the day when I found these guys. I know I need them for another farm later, so I brought them home, got the advancement, and then realized I wasn't even recording yet. So we'll pick it up from here. I also need more of them, so a quick LA duping session with a music disc and some amethyst shards seems appropriate here. I chose to put on one of the new trial chamber discs, and we had a good time running around storage, breaking things, and generally being menaces until eventually all 6 were back in their boats. The first farm I want to make today is a slime farm by Big Booty 17. Is he 17? Was he born in 2017? No, that's not possible. Are there 17 big booties? I don't know. I have so many questions. The slime farm uses the new oozing potion and it's ridiculously overpowered. How overpowered is it? Well, Booty doesn't measure the farm in hourly rates because you run it for a few minutes at a time, but if it were hourly, the rate is over 120,000 slime balls per hour. I can personally make it run at over 90,000 slime balls per hour, and I'm not good at it yet. To put that in a little bit of perspective, the swamp slime farm that I currently use, that I talk so highly of, is 15 to 22,000 slime balls per hour depending on the moon phase. It can only be built in a swamp and requires a ton of slabs and thousands of brown mushrooms, not the easiest thing to get in huge quantities. The farm I'm making today can be put in any non-hot biome, so no deserts, no mesa, no savanna, all that. But it can be made with under a shulker of materials, with the most expensive bits being maybe the oozing potion itself, which requires netherwort, blaze powder, and a slime block to brew. I'm going to make myself this very overpowered slime farm directly below my storage, right next to where we put those maps. I like the idea of having this right at home, and since it doesn't normally have even a single mob inside, there's no added lag from building it here. I'm stunned this farm hasn't been nerfed yet. I'm still aware that it could happen, but this farm is still by far one of the most overpowered things that Minecraft has had in a long time. After building the farm, I had to brew the potions, and because I already have slime blocks, I'm going to be able to brew up a shulker of potions to get started, but if you didn't have slime, 1 block would get you 3 potions. That's enough to make you 12 shulkers or 6 double chests of slime balls. Yeah, 1 slime block now equals 12 shulkers of slime balls. That's more than a shulker of slime blocks in return. And with the farm built, I also took the time to build the shulker loader add-on, as well as the snow compacting machine. This farm, like ENX04's Wither Rose farm that I have in this world, uses sheared snow golems as bait, but instead of having a wither kill the snow golems, we splash them with the slime potion and then let them die. And each one that dies with the using effect then has a chance to spawn slimes, which fall down into our killing chamber where our looting sword takes care of the rest. The snowball compactor uses the Autocrafter to take snowballs from the unalived golems and remake them into snow blocks so you can run the farm again and again. And by putting another snow golem in a chest boat, we can quickly unload snowballs there without getting into the boat ourselves. To get the initial snow blocks for this, I visited our long-lost friend who still lives in my starter pagoda. I'm sure he was glad to see me after all these days, but having it up here isn't practical, so I moved another snow golem down here next to the snowball compactor. Now I can farm extra snowballs whenever I need, and with a mending shovel I'll be able to repair it as we use it. Using this farm doesn't require mods, but you'll need to rebind a key to make it at full speed. I'm going to rebind my jump key to my right click and my right click or use item to the jump key. As some of you know, when you use a keystroke for right click input, it makes it much faster. So now when I hold down the spacebar, this happens. Let's load up this farm quickly. Once the snow golems are in place, I can swap my keys back, press this button, flip this switch, and watch the magic happen. And yes, I know my gates are in the wrong spot. I'll fix it soon. That is a ridiculous amount of slimes, and it's nowhere near done. I don't even know what to say about this. This is incredibly OP. Let's start up the compactor and take a look at the farm. The medium-sized slimes behind me are being broken down into these small cubes, which I can then swipe at with looting 3, and it's very satisfying to use, actually. The farm gives me a really decent amount of XP, so while I can fully repair my tools, sword, even the shovel that I'm using to get the snowballs, all while collecting an incredible amount of slime. Let's start loading up the shulkers. They're still coming through, and I already have a ridiculous amount of slime in my inventory. That's 1 shulker done. There's some more down here. If I drop down to get the ones that are on the ground, I'm also going to pick up those snowballs and can keep the compacting process going. And I have all the sounds turned way down, but between the observer clock, the Autocrafter, the slime noises, and the XP dings, this is a fairly loud farm to use, just so you know. Alright, let's finish up this first run. That's another shulker. There's more here, there's some on the ground, I'll go get those, there's more on the ground, there's more to swing at. This is a very OP farm. After my first use of the farm, I found all these snowballs left on the ledge because I had put the gates on the wrong spot. That gave me a lot more return than I thought and more to compact, so I had to go back to the snow blocks. And you know the rule around here, if some of it is good, more is better, so I loaded the farm again, changed my controls again, pushed the button, flipped the switch, and watched the magic happen again. Still hadn't fixed the gates though, didn't realize it yet. This time I swiped quicker, moved items earlier, and compacted easier. Running the farm takes a bit of practice, but once you get the rhythm down, the whole thing can definitely be done in under 5 minutes. Filling shulker after shulker of slime in such a short time was really overpowered and satisfying. It's very likely this potion will get a nerf, so if you want it, maybe a case of get it while it's hot. As always, the farm will be linked in the description. Remember, it's by Big Booty 17. So many questions. After the second run, I fixed the gate so the snowball return would work properly. And what's that rule again? Alright, more is better. Load, button, lever, stonks. Stabby, 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 stabby. I'm fine. From running the farm just a few times, I got over a full shulker and some of slime blocks, 12 total shulkers of slime balls, and this can be built nearly anywhere. It's a very crazy farm, very cool. We can put a full one in the storage, let the auto sorter handle the rest, then we can move on to farm number 2. Let's head out to our outpost portal. My next farm is going to be an ominous bottle farm by Fortunate Diamond. I'm not using this as the main outpost, the terrain is way too rough, and I want something I can perfectly flatten and even though I don't need to do as much as I will do here, I really wanted to have it on the perfect land. Unfortunately, this was the best outpost I could find, so I did the scouting earlier, and yeah, this was as good as it gets. So now I want to terraform and flatten this entire area. That should be it, let's get started. First thing I have to do is light up each floor and then break out some of the blocks. Fortunate's full tutorial is in the description, so make sure you check it out if you want to be able to build this. The ominous bottles we'll get from this will be useful in any future raid farms or ominous trials for ominous keys and the harder trial chamber fights. The farm is very simple, so while I build it, let me explain. Pillagers are going to spawn on the flat area that I've created. They'll see the iron golems, and because of their huge aggro distance, will run toward them to try and shoot the iron golems. Once they get close enough, a water stream will pull them into a lava blade, which kills them. Any of the pillagers that are also captains will have the flag and will get killed and drop an ominous potion. Some will also drop the banner. By sitting AFK, we can then get more than 350 ominous bottles in 1 hour. For a trial chamber, bringing just 10 potions with you is far more than you'll ever need. You can get those in under 2 minutes. With the farm done, let's watch it in action. The pillager captain in front of us is a bit of a tour guide. He doesn't want to move yet, so watch the one on his right that runs toward the golem, ends up in the waters and then the lava before dying and dropping us an ominous bottle. They're too far away to shoot the golems and close enough to charge in. I love looking at it from above like this. The pillagers look like busy little ants. It's kind of unfortunate that normal pillagers don't drop anything at all because we kill a lot more of them than we do the captains. Let's go and check on our loot. I did discover one thing here. When I'm inside, the golems can be shot if the pillagers aim at me and miss. So if you do make this farm, land up on the top or the middle floor, wait for the pillagers to go into the lava, then go and get your loot. We have a lot of bottles already. I'm back up at the AFK spot so we can take a look. The level of bottle they drop seems to be random, as I've mentioned before, but in just a few minutes we ended up with at least 8 of every level, 44 total in under 8 minutes. Let's AFK for longer and see how we go. We should be good to go check again. Each of the 4 double chests ended up with between 13 and 18 bottles, for a total of 63 new bottles and over 100 in total. Yeah, that'll do for now. The next task on my list is to catch up on some armor stands I owe people in this world. Over on my Patreon, every tier gets an armor stand, from iron armor at tier 1 to netherite stands at tier 5. Today we have to build a place to hold these stands, as well as get the armor sets and a whole lot of ender chests for a special decoration idea. What I want to do is design a dedicated space for these long term, but that may be in our second build area once the Asian Fantasy City's done. The first 100 people are going to go into a hallway that I'm going to build today inside our Sun Temple. The Sun Temple is one of my favorite builds in the world, and it hasn't had any sort of interior yet. So for now I want to build a dark, pitch black hallway to house these armor stands. It's not going to be the most detailed and intricate design, but I want nothing to distract from the armor stands themselves. The people who've supported me on Patreon so far are very important to the world continuing, and this full-time journey being even possible, so I want to show them as much appreciation as we can today. Each armor stand space will come with a pedestal, the armor stand, their highest tier armor depending on what Patreon level they are, a nameplate with a glowing orange sign, orange candles, and an empty item frame. The item frame is another redeem that I'll open up later on and let people put an item in them. And I'm setting up just over 100 stands today, even though we'll only have the first hall full, or about 25 of them. This hall is only open to 100 people, so if you have any intention of getting into this world with one of these, once it's full forever. One thing I want to add is a special feeling to the interior. So I'm going to make ender chests and use them as floor below the carpet. The particle effect and lighting from the chests will still show through, and give the plain black rooms a bit more of a magical feel. To do this, I need to craft about 300 ender chests. Thankfully, because of the farms that I build in this world, that wasn't much of a problem. So if anyone ever questions why I build all these farms or whether it's worth it, just remember, it is. One farm that I still do need to make is a glow squid farm, but fortunately it's very easy to get them if you have a good spot. Near my old raid farm, I have a great glow squid spot. There's this small cave where they spawn in, and it's basically the best spawn in the area. So all I have to do is just fly straight up to despawn everything, drop straight down into the water to get the glow squid, straight back up and respawn more, and straight back down again. I'm only going to light up the candles for the redeemed stand so far. We can start putting names into the hall now. The first one's for Meebin MC. You may recognize his name from episode 9 when I built the storage. And in case anyone who has previously been a Patreon is wondering, whether you've been active or not, you're still going to get one of these. I know a few have already had to cancel their memberships, but they still get their stand, of course. I just didn't have a place to put them at the time. I obviously won't create all of the stands and the halls on the videos, but for the first hall it felt like the right thing to do. I'll likely add most of the rest on my Twitch live stream, so be there if you want to see yours get added. And I want to thank all my Patreons for joining me. I know there's a lot of different reasons. Some of you want the Hardcore World downloads, some of you just want build schematics or to support my channel. There are a lot of other reasons, but for whatever reason you choose to support me, thanks. Let's get the armor stands done. There are 2 diamond, many gold, and iron armor sets to represent all my Patreons, so it's time to go do some perimeter progress and a few, issues. Problems, even. Some may say disaster. This week's perimeter update is sad. Unfortunate, even. It started off well. I intended to complete all 4 trenches for this update, so I could start the World Eater next time. This is my first ever TNT perimeter, so I'm learning as I go in some ways, and let's just say the lessons were significant. Building the trencher wasn't actually that difficult as I'm following a schematic and just placing blocks. I'm avoiding any observer issues and making sure I don't update them early and just getting through it. Once the trencher and the return station was built, I finally got to send it off. And it's super satisfying to watch the trencher running. Even though the first couple of passes won't hit much, just the sheer power of that much TNT is really amazing to see in game. You can see it's topping a few of the trees and just getting started on those first passes. Watching it come back, I know it's all working well, and now I just have to keep water, lava, and obsidian out of the trench. And I'm going to pull as many ores out of the perimeter as I can, so I'll stay busy while it runs, but on the first passes I took the chance to grab a bunch of lily pads, chop down some trees. Oh, and here's the scariest thing I've done in a hardcore world. You can fly through falling TNT. Like this. Yep, safely. Eventually the trencher started taking away the dirt and stone to reveal these precious ores and some new water to drain. On the higher levels, I'm going to get tons of copper, coal, and iron, and later on it will be lapis, then eventually gold, redstone, and diamonds. And I'll be using my sponges to drain the water, and also some of the sand to fill in lava and keep that out of the way. The first problem that I found was that the trencher needs to be 1 block over from where I originally planned. That means my sand wall started breaking and water was rushing into the trench. I was forced to stop the trencher and rebuild the destroyed wall, as well as add another layer of sand to the outer side to keep it from continuously breaking. And with the trencher off, I took the time to catch up on ore collection. I'm a bit of a loot goblin, and in this case that means I've collected every collectible ore from this perimeter so far. And after filling in this small lava lake, I found a very large and problematic water cave to deal with. I sectioned it off, drained what I needed to, but that took a lot longer than planned. And then disaster struck. When I restarted the machine, I got too far away from it and this happened. It missed the return station, flew way past, and then blew itself up. While picking up the spare parts from about 100 blocks away, I was pretty disappointed. Building a trencher doesn't take too long, but this was destroying land outside the perimeter. I needed to get more resources, and now I'm way behind on progress. This one's still broken, you can see the land it destroyed. What a disaster. That beach that's closest to us is where it was destroying, and the one past it is where I was still picking up parts. And now with both sides of the machine out of sync, I also had to tear down the entire trencher. To say I was disappointed in myself in this project so far was a huge understatement. Things go wrong, but I felt like they already had. I moved the schematic down to the new height and rebuilt the entire machine. Once it was rebuilt, I took a deep breath and sent it off again, ready to get back to my ore mining. I drained a small water cave and came out to check the progress of the new trencher. And it happened again. My natural reaction was to stop the recording, pause the game, and quit. I love this world. It's great, I really do. But I was ready to end the series here. Just stand under the duper, let it run, let it end the game. I just went to bed. This was easily the most difficult part and the lowest part of the series for me. I had already thought about quitting the series, as I mentioned before, multiple times. And then getting to this part, I just didn't know what to do. I was super low. I'm an emotional player. I sometimes make stupid emotional decisions. I wanted to delete the world. I wanted to stand under the duper and die in the world. I wanted to do anything except play. So I just took a break, I took the rest of the night off, and came back the next day. The next morning I woke up feeling pretty defeated. I rebuilt the trencher and set it off one more time. I watched it closely as it got to the end, very anxious about this part. And this time it worked. I was ecstatic. It's time to grind and make up for all the lost time. I was super careful this time not to unload it. I was careful to watch it do the return trips more than a few times. I sponged, I mined, I flew down into this huge cave and found a trial chamber? That's sitting just outside the perimeter, so we'll explore that one later. Ore collection is going well. Copper, coal, iron, even a few diamonds from that cave got us started, but I'll have so many more by the time this perimeter's completed. And sponge ASMR is even fun once in a while. Trenching down to the deep slate levels was a fairly smooth process. Once you get the hang of running this, it's not that bad, right? I love flying through the TNT and finding uncovered diamonds, gold, and redstone. I forgot that diamonds had got a buff in a previous update, as most of my chunks are still 1.20 old chunks, so I was happy with the amount of diamonds I was pulling from the trench and eventually passed a full stack of diamond ore, even though I was still high up in the deep slate. And the lower the trench ran, the more and more diamonds there were per trip. Eventually, and thankfully, trench number 1 was finished. 2 days or so after it should have been, and with many frustrations, I was finally able to get through 1/4 of this part of the perimeter. This one trench gave me over 6 stacks of diamond ore in total, tons of gold, redstone, and lapis, and it was finally time to pull down the trencher after a job finally well done. I flew home to the gold farm to repair everything, as I'd been out at the perimeter for a very long time. My goal for this week was to complete all 4 trenches. Even though the first had become a nightmare, I was resilient and went back to work. I went to do this back trench first and keep it simple. This is probably the easiest of the trenches, and needing a win, I started there. You can see the trench marks where it's already begun working. I even found a new friend. This is one of the new 1.20.6 wolves, and I haven't tamed any, so this is my first new friend. I brought him back to sit at my main workplace here at the perimeter. We need a name, so please hit me with your best pup names and I'll rename him or her soon. This is a big water cave. We're not getting through this today. I'll come back and do trenches soon. Okay, let's get back to making some farms. I can at least control these. Our next farm is actually related to the perimeter project. One thing I really dislike is having to travel back and forth to the gold farm for XP when I need to repair. I'm using a lot of elytra durability, a lot of shovel and pickaxe durability, and even the hoe for sponges, so I need a source of XP at the perimeter. I like my bottles of enchanting for XP, but with the void trader broken in 1.21, I know I have to trade very manually for those now, and I do every time I'm near home, but I want to build a silverfish XP farm. I know quite a few of you saw my silverfish mining experiment over on the Extras channel. That video is over 60,000 views now, which is insane, but anyways. I saw this great XP farm tutorial by Regand, and I've used some of his farms in the past, so I trust him. I started as with the slime farm by brewing a shulker of the infestation potions. Those are the new 121 potions that make this farm work. Like the slime farm, what I love most about this is the portability. I can basically decide where to put an XP farm in the world now, so I'll just put it behind my ore storage for the perimeter. We're gonna put a campfire here, dispenser here. If you haven't watched my silverfish mining video or Neeson's, the basic idea here is that when a mob takes damage while infested, it has a chance to spawn silverfish. And we have a mob in Minecraft that can take damage and regenerate so fast that it doesn't die, the LA. So the plan here is to put LAs in a very small space above the campfire, give silverfish a way to pop out the sides of that hole, direct them to one corner of a box with water, and then kill them with sweeping edge from an armor stand just outside that box. The XP can go through the corner of the glass, and this farm gives enough XP in just one splash infestation potion to repair all of my gear and then some every time I'm here. I also put a brewing stand out here so I can brew more infestation potions as I need them. I brought a few LAs with me, then duped a few times while building the farm to give me enough for the farm to run. When I finished building the temporary loading structure above, getting the LAs into the hole is actually quite simple. They try and pick up stuff that you leave behind. An observer clock and a note block will hold their attention while I cover them in, and then I piston pushed a block into the lower area and got them right up against the campfires. Yeah, I'm aware this is not the most humane or ethical way to treat our little blue friends. It is, however, an incredibly cool farm. I'm also aware that I'm the supervillain in the world so far. We're just gonna have to accept that. So the campfire is ticking damage on the LAs. I push this button and the silverfish will start popping out. I forgot a roof. Hold on. Pause. Okay, here we go. Okay, yeah, that's a lot of XP. I'm gonna repair all my stuff really quick. It's already done. They're still pouring out. I could use a Bane of Arthropods sword here to one-shot them, but this is fine. I'm probably not going to carry a special sword for this farm. And that's it. It's a very mobile, very easy XP farm that can be done in just a few materials and a few minutes with a couple of LAs and a potion. Now I'm leaving the perimeter and I'm not going back today. Our last farm of the day isn't a 1.21 farm technically. Armadillos were released in 1.20.6, and even though it's not 121, very few people have a farm for armadillo scoots, and to be honest, I never played the 1.20.6 content, so that's still brand new for me and for this world. I also made the insane choice to fly home with the armadillos, even though I found them thousands of blocks from home. I don't know why I thought this was going to be fun, but I had to build up, coast, and eventually we were back home. I tried to get the armadillos in through the storage wing that hangs out past my mountain. Somehow I lost one before this point. It's okay, I only needed 2 for the farm, so I pulled them up over the edge of the farm and then hopped off so they could join me on the roof. Why do I do things the hard way? I always make this so much more difficult than it needs to be. Bring them on the nether roof, Rad. Oh no, I gotta fly them home the long way. I gotta make it 10 times longer than it needs to take. I gotta be special and silly. Just put these 3 through the portal. Okay, that's 1. That's number 2. And surprise, the 3rd one died probably on my wither rose down there. At this point, I just want a working scoot farm, so no more jokes, no more anything. I just broke the floor, dragged them down a temporary staircase, lured them up to a fenced-in hopper, and pushed them in like it was their fault. And after a quick breeding, I boxed in the bottom to make sure the baby couldn't sneak out, and I now have a small working armadillo scoot farm. Including the 2 I collected while moving armadillos, we now have enough for a dog armor. Let's make one of those. As much as I personally love orange, it doesn't look great with the pinkish tones that are in the armadillo scoot, so I'm just going to add a white one here. Let's go see Loki. Hi Loki, we missed you. I brought you a present. Here you go. Since Loki is one of the traditionally colored white wolves, I think this looks pretty good. I'm happy with that. Let's get the advancement for shearing that off of him, but don't worry, we'll give it right back. For the rest of my time today, I played with Loki. We love playing chase in this main room, and sometimes when I'm not sure what to do next, this is what I do. So I chased him, then he chased me. It's all good fun until he teleports and cheats. Okay, I'm obviously done for today. This was quite an adventure with huge ups and huge downs. Next time we'll work on the largest military build for our city and finish the other 3 trenches. I'll see you then. Lately I've been rediscovering my love of Minecraft, and I think what I've learned will help you love your worlds, and mine, even more in the future. I know a lot of people are feeling burnt out with the game, and a lot of videos have popped up lately saying Minecraft isn't much fun anymore, or they're burnt out or quitting Minecraft. They try and explain why the game isn't what it used to be. I think I've figured out the secret to enjoying the game, at least for me, and I'd like to share that today as we go about building the largest build I've done for our Asian city. I'm going to start today out at the perimeter project, however. If you don't know, this project is a 528 by 528 hole that we're blasting in the world. Redstone's very important in my world, and it became much harder to get with the raid farm nerfs introduced in 1.21. And while raid farms were nerfed, witch farms were buffed and rates are now viable. This perimeter will hold a double witch farm, getting us nearly 3 times the redstone per hour as our old raid farm, so I'll call that a win. The perimeter will also be large enough to hold a lot of other big projects, but before it's done, we're going to need to clear these 4 side trenches. I started this last episode and hoped to finish it, but then we ran into several issues like these water caves and blowing the machine up like 4 times, but let's not talk about that part. While the trenches run, I clear ores and drain water. Sponging in these trenches is actually part of my answer to loving Minecraft again. If you were here for the start of this project, I said I was going to spam sponges, even though I know it's not the most perfect or efficient method of clearing them. I'm aware most good players would section it off in small batches, put sponges, then 2 or 3 moss, another sponge, over and over until it's clear. And I do that sometimes, but sometimes I just spam them everywhere like my life depends on it. Do you remember what I said when I spammed them for the first time? Let me have fun. Somewhere along the way, really good players stopped having fun because they stopped having fun. Let me say that another way. People who know the most efficient, best, fastest, and most optimal route find it difficult to see any other way. It's hard to convince them they're wrong because they're not. Their way is the most optimal and efficient. And at first, being hyper efficient is really fun. My old cobblestone farm was okay, but my new one is 12 times faster, so watching the fast one is fun. But you can optimize too much. It's one of the reasons I think new viewers have a hard time getting into this world that I'm building, actually. We went so hard at the start that if you haven't watched every single video, know every bit of lore, and understand how every single machine works, it's easier to sometimes just stop watching and go watch someone build a giant furnace for their 10 furnace super smelter. Yeah, their smelter's probably pretty meh in use, but their video's understandable to far more players. And I'm the worst offender when it comes to bigger and faster is better meta. I love to tell people what farms are the best. I love to show you how to optimize, and I'm very proud of what I got done in this world after 1,000 and 2,000 days, because I don't think anyone's ever had a more optimized hardcore world for the time spent. And that's a nice weird flex but okay moment until it sucks the fun out of everything. So step 1 of me fixing the problem is admitting that I have one. If you think that sounds a bit like a 12-step program, I think that's actually a really good analogy. So hyper-efficient is the problem for some of us, but clearly not everyone. What about those who play for a couple of weeks a year and then meme? Well, they see what we can do, decide not to learn it, and feel like there's nothing new to do. They don't miss 1.5 Minecraft. They miss being young with no responsibilities except building a diamond and gold block house. Yes, trenching gave me a lot of time to think. For now, let's keep playing. I'll come back to this in a bit. Collecting the resources from each trench is a bit like a scavenger hunt. Each trench has been different, and what we find with them is always a bit unique. In one, we opened up a very large cave and mined diamonds from it. In another, we stumbled upon a trial chamber in the wild. Geodes are almost common at this point. Some have large caves and some have mine shafts, while some have both. And the first one had 5 separate mob spawners, while the last 3 ended up having a grand total of 2 combined. I mined up every diamond I can find, lots of the ore, especially in the trench itself, and amused myself with a bit of extra exploration and sponge ASMR whenever I can. Last time I had a lot of problems in these trenches, but this time I was ready for it all. This is how the rest of trenches 2, 3, and 4 went. And this is how the perimeter looks from way above with all 4 trenches now finished. And I've collected an incredible amount of resources. Let's lay them out back at home and take a look at what I brought back. Almost 20 stacks of lapis ore, a shulker of diamond ore including 29 of the more rare stone diamonds, a shulker of copper ore plus some deep slate copper ore, and what we took out of that trial chamber that we blew a hole through. The loot included 2 new trims, 7 more keys, and the last music disc that I was missing. We also brought back 2/3 of a shulker of deep slate iron ore, a full shulker of coal ore, or 2, or 3, or 4, a full shulker of deep slate gold, nearly a full shulker of redstone ore, another full shulker of iron ore and stone this time, and 2 more full shulkers of stone copper ore. And while I was away for so long, I used a bunch of our bottles of enchanting to repair gear, so I did some villager trading and refilled that box as best I could. Today's build is going to be our first in the military district, and it's going to be a bit of a planning center, or a strategic hub for our armies. This should be a very important and central piece of the city, as the military's power needs to be obvious and literally towering over most of the rest of the city. I'm going to build a 9-story octagonal pagoda with sweeping roofs on top of a very heavy stone brick base. The build is modeled very closely after the Chinsui Caves Temple, a Buddhist temple built in 1994, which is dedicated to a Chinese Buddhist monk from the 9th century. And now you know. Yep, that happens sometimes. I'm ready, are you ready? Let's get started on the build now. I've cleared a space for the pagoda in the military district opposite our main base and waterfall. I'm not going to worry too much about the land itself today because as the city grows I want room to get between buildings, fill in the details after the builds, and have room to push right up against this if I need to. These 14 shulkers hold the materials for the build and they're absolutely full. I'm keeping the same color palette as we normally use with the red, white, and black, and the dark oak. I've chosen this spot along the river because of the way the height of the build will make the city feel more cohesive and stable. I know that's not really the right word, but solid just feels clunky. The city will be more connected by having a very large central point, especially near and overlooking the city hub. It closes in the views from around each edge and just looks really great here, and it'll feel exactly as imposing as I mean to when you enter the city for the first time. The reference building has these beautiful blue window details and a fancy patterned opening. I obviously can't reproduce this exactly in Minecraft, so I've chosen to include warped wood windows and a glazed terracotta above here. Inside the ground floor, we're already starting to build out some of the map walls, cartography stations, reference books and storages, as well as the main viewing platform. And this quartz wall will be the backdrop to a very large map, one that will include the entire overworld portion of our hardcore world so far. The side maps will then show the entire Mushroom Island as well as some new territories that we'd like to explore further for long-term builds. In total, there will be more than 100 map pieces in this one room. Also, I'm going to need a glow squid farm soon. After making 100 glow item frames, I'm pretty poor on glow squid ink and I had to gather more just to complete the wall. Okay, let's take a look at this. That is one chonky boy. The roofs were such a pain. I've been enjoying expanding my ability to build them throughout the whole city, but these octagonal swooping roofs were by far the hardest I've done, and I think both these and the top came out super stunning. I'm just finishing a few of the details on this build, and as I do, I thought I'd finish the conversation from earlier about enjoying Minecraft. When was the last time you made a proper map wall? If you like playing this game, I bet the first time you opened a map, right-clicked it, and took a look at your work from above, you really loved seeing it. I've never heard anyone say anything bad about this process. They open it, they say, oh wow, that's cool, or look how great that looks. And they inevitably put the map away, maybe lose it, put it in a single item frame on the wall, and never think about mapping again. Most people don't even understand how the cartography table fully works. Did you know that you can expand the size of maps to fit a much larger area? You probably did. A map can be anywhere between 128 by 128 blocks and 2048 by 2048 blocks, which is 16 times larger in each direction. Did you know that you could lock a map so it can't be changed, or you can keep it open so you can update it? Maybe. Did you know that you can clone a map, make an exact copy, lock that one, and then change the original? Maybe you did, but if I asked you to do that right now, could you? And last one, did you know that in Java Edition you can place down a banner in the world and see those on the map, and if the banner has a name, that name will show on the map? There are so many little and fun things in Minecraft that get lost as we get better and better at the game. Is a map game-changing? No. There's no map wall per hour, so we ignore it. But maybe not everything has to be game-changing, game-breaking, OP, heavily optimized, or efficient. Maybe what we've lost in the game is the ability to just enjoy a map because it kinda looks cool, and it makes you say wow the first time you see your base on one. Like this one. Every map here is the furthest zoomed in, only 128 by 128 blocks. It shows our entire home city, as well as the nearby pillager mansion, and even a corner of the Mushroom Island. I've made a more complete map of the Mushroom Island and all of our farms back here on this other wall, and some extra territory to explore over on this one here. There's even room to expand if I want to do another whole row of maps above this one. I love how the pagoda looks at our city now. It's a towering, imposing structure that gives our defense a great view of the surroundings, and it stands proudly at the city center with an accessible map for anyone who's interested. The upper floors will eventually be decorated with extra rooms, more details that support its purpose, and so on, but for now I'm just really happy I took on this project. The glow frames were a bit of a pain to get, but they look great when lighting up the map and showing the details. My plan is to add our coordinates for different things into the books that sit on the lecterns as we update our world. I've left all the maps unlocked so they can grow with us as the city keeps expanding, but maybe I should lock a copy for history. This was a lot of fun. It was a good reminder that not every project we do has to be OP or useful. In fact, doing silly and out of the ordinary work lately has kept me really interested in growing the world further. The aesthetic build of the harbor and gate and this tower have reminded me how to have fun in Minecraft, a reminder that was long overdue to be honest. As this map came together, I did say, wow, that's cool, more than a few times. Seeing our starter home, the floating island, the front gate area, arena, dock area, ships, city hub, our temples, and sentry towers all around it, made me feel like I've done something in this world that I'm proud of, and I'm happy with. I'm going to continue with the unnecessary, silly projects next time when we dismantle an entire trial chamber to build a roller coaster. I said what I said. I'll see you then. Hey all, welcome in. I'm Rad and this is my hardcore world. Let's jump straight into this. Last time I ended by saying we were building a roller coaster, but we're not.
How dare you?
At least not today. Hold on, I need to realize that my double chest of observers is all gone. I guess I need quartz. Where was I? So after I recorded the last video, I really thought about my feelings on Minecraft. I said I forgot how to play and just have fun, but beyond that, planning a series this in-depth and this over the top means I know months in advance what I'm gonna do, and a rough guide as to when. This is how my brain works. I need to know what's coming so I don't stress over it, but at the same time, all I can see some days is the insane amount of work to get there. What you don't see in that planning document is the time. Time to finish the city the way that I want is probably another 600 hours of recording, if not more. That's not including creative planning, editing, or doing any post-production work, uploading, answering every comment as I always do, so when I see something that I want to do, like the map wall, it feels like I'm simply adding more work to an already full plate. How does that relate to today? Well, when I thought about what I really truly wanted, the answer was to finish the entire perimeter and decoration. I know this project has another 100 or more hours of work left, and I don't want to drag it out another 5 episodes. So that's what we're going to do today. I need observers because we're building the largest redstone machine I've ever made to dig the largest hole I've ever made, which I'll fill with the largest pixel art I've ever made. And those are good times. This project begins on day 2480. That's significant to note, but for now, just hold on to it. The world eater I'm building today is going to destroy every block in the area down to the bedrock floor, so I need to move these shulkers that were used to build the trenchers, and I need to move my portal as well. Obsidian in the portal frame would stop the sweepers, as we'll discuss in a minute. I'm just going to move this portal up 100 or so blocks so it still connects to the exact same portal on the nether roof. And part of the trial chamber that I raided here is within the perimeter, and most of it's outside of it, so the part that's inside will be completely destroyed. Unfortunately, the vaults and spawners will stop the sweepers, so I need to remove those also. That gave me a chance to take on another round of these spawners as well. Both spawners and vaults can be mined, but it takes an exceptionally long time, far longer than even obsidian. Still, I do need to mine every one out. And with every geode in the area about to be obliterated, I collected amethyst clusters and shards as they were difficult to farm, and calcite because it's impossible to farm. Inside the perimeter, I also need to make sure no kelp is in the ocean bits. Kelp growing while the sweepers are running can cause issues, so I need to ensure every last kelp plant is gone. And something I did miss here, and we'll see it break the sweeper later, is the shipwrecks and drowned ruins that have stairs in them. TNT explodes stairs just fine. It doesn't explode waterlogged stairs at all though. With our prep done, let's build a world eater and I'll explain how this works, at least the best I can. This world eater is built in 3 unique parts. The bottom are liquid removers that we'll call water sweepers, but really they'll remove water or lava that's within the area, and that means I don't need to drain hardly anything else for this project. There are a couple of areas where water and lava will get too close together, but we'll deal with that when it happens. Just remember, cobblestone good, obsidian bad. So that's the bottom of the machine. At the top are a set of over 100 flying machine TNT dupers that will do the bulk of the eating of the world. These will fly back and forth, dropping thousands and thousands and thousands of TNT, which should destroy absolutely everything that I don't manually remove. On either end is a return station. These serve the purpose of starting and stopping the machine, but more importantly, each time the flying machines get to one end, they let the TNT turn off, pause while the water sweepers get clear, and then lower the machine by 1 block, restart the TNT and the sweepers, all in order to ensure the sweepers don't get blown up by the falling TNT. It also means if one sweeper gets stuck, the whole machine doesn't break. The redstone wiring is done in a way that all sweepers need to be back before they will reset the machine. This is called an AND gate, because we need sweeper 1, and sweeper 2, and sweeper 3, and so on, to all be back before the redstone continues working. The sweepers are built now. You don't have to start these quite as high in the air as I did, but you do need them to clear every block in the perimeter, including the highest trees. I'd rather run it for a few extra minutes than have it immediately break on me. And yes, I'm 100% using Lightmatica for a build this complicated. These machines are intricate, detailed, and as we saw with the trenchers, will break if I look at them funny. Now it's time to build the TNT dupers. This will be pretty challenging, so I ended up building a runway of temporary blocks so I could reach everything as I went. Moss was definitely my best friend on this project. I disconnected these ones so nothing I do has any effect on the parts that are already built, just in case. Now let's build the world eater, but with less yapping. With the world eater now built, it's time to remove the moss temporary bridge and see how much I got wrong in the build. And then using Lightmatica's verify feature, I can check what's wrong. You can see I have a few pistons that I placed before the redstone block, and that's not going to work. Seems I did the same thing a few times. Then I completely forgot a slime block here. And then this note block starts the whole thing, so let's start the whole thing. I know this is safe, but it doesn't feel safe up here. Yeah, that's a fair bit of TNT. Let's watch this for a second. There's actually so much TNT falling that you can't see it all at the same time. Look, as I fly down the line, you can see more and more rendering in. It's all there, it's all working. The game just can't process everything that's supposed to be on screen at the same time, so it doesn't. Yeah, that's a lot of TNT. And you can see why I put my portal here now. This is a nice bird's eye view of everything. Not that Minecraft has birds other than chickens and cave birds. During the world eating, you're going to see plenty of mobs. This is unusual since I often play the harder build stuff with a mob switch on, but in order to run the world eater without it breaking every 8 seconds, I'm recording one long replay mod and recording with my old cam account like we used to do before replay mod was even a thing. Replay mod can glitch out, especially on long recordings. This was going to be over 11 hours long. So to ensure I have the footage and to keep the perimeter loaded, I've got my cam account in spectator at the very top of the world. But that means my mob switch doesn't work, so there's always a trade-off. I get the cam footage, I lose the mob switch. Fair enough. And look at this, we're actually down to breaking blocks now, let's go. I've used the world eater for a little while now. You can see most of the land is gone and we're down to stone and water. It's a lot of fun seeing the land being removed like this at these levels. And we did end up with our first stuck sweeper here. As I mentioned, I missed that waterlogged stairs wouldn't get destroyed by the TNT. Fixing it's pretty easy. You just break the obstruction and then restart the back observer. And there it goes, it's almost done. You can see the rest of the machine waiting for it because of that AND gate that I talked about before. Once it gets back, just keep an eye on it, and as it docks back home, you'll see the TNT will restart immediately and automatically. And for the life of me, I couldn't tell you why this one stopped. What, a stone block stopped it? Oh well, I removed it. Easy restart. Let's go. After fixing a few stoppages, the world eater ran for hours flawlessly. While While the machine runs, you'll see me dart in and out to collect resources. Unlike the trenches, I didn't collect every possible ore. I simply collected amethyst clusters and diamond ore and a little bit of calcite. The rest I have enough of for now, and I don't want to be blowing up fully grown clusters if I can avoid it. You'll also see me fly in to remove obsidian. That's important because the sweepers will and do get stuck on that. Removing obsidian was by far the worst part of the world eating. Collecting diamonds was the best. I do have the texture pack on for this that I discussed in a previous episode where they show up a bit better. The world is a lot of chaos at the moment, so this helps me just a little bit. And this is by far the worst section of the perimeter. An area where a lot of water met a lot of lava, and that's just toxic. It formed a lot of obsidian, and I had to mine each piece. And I blocked it off several times, but ended up having to do a lot of water draining and sponging to ensure that they didn't mix anymore. That's okay, that's done. Let's go collect diamonds and delete the world. We're near the very end of this now. It's taken hours and hours, but you can see the last layers of deep slate and tuff being blown away. I love seeing the bedrock emerge and the texture get darker in this little speed up. How satisfying is this? This is the first perimeter I've ever made with TNT dupers. I've hand dug one before, but that was in pre-118. And yes, I chose to make basically 4 standard perimeters as my quote-unquote first perimeter. I have problems, we know this. My old worlds weren't full of TNT dupers and OP stuff, so I never had this chance, but since this world is pretty open to whatever I want to do to make it awesome, this has been a really fun learning experience to see how to set up the trenchers, the duper, and run the TNT machines. It's all been really cool. And back at home with our ores, you can see I got a ton of diamond ore out of this, over 2.5 shulkers just from today. I'm no longer poor, let's go. And I needed a quick trip home at this point. I've been away for so many hours that we had shulkers and shulkers of honey backed up, same with honeycomb. I refreshed my food, my rocket shulker, repaired all my gear, especially my wings. And the perimeter may be cleared out, but we're far from done. My next stop was the froglight farm. Just above all the bedrock, I want to fill the entire perimeter with froglights so that the surface of my later artwork is completely lit at all times. I'm going to cover that up with carpet and slabs, but we're going to lay over 270,000 froglights into the floor first. Getting 270,000 froglights itself is no easy feat, but I collected, went back and collected more, and repeated this for hours. I decided the easy way to get all 160 shulkers moved was then to use leads on chest boats and fill the chest boats with shulkers of froglights, and then I had a silly idea. Let's get a horse and ride this across the nether roof. All at once. After we get more froglights, of course. I've now killed almost 500,000 magma cubes. Yes, I got these legitimately and myself, just in case you wondered. While flying around looking for a horse, I found something that some of you will remember. I found 2 of our really early game sniffers just randomly wandering. They are so far away from my starter pagoda where I let them out. They were both trapped, so I freed them and let them continue living their best lives, but it was really funny just seeing these guys. I thought they must have died 1,500 days ago, but nope. They're just out here randomly roaming the wild and getting further and further from the base. Look where they are compared to my actual builds. Anyway, the horse hunt led me to this guy, and he pretty much loved me straight away, so we love him back. We flew back together so I could show him the city, and then I pillared up, remembering my armadillo adventure the entire time and destined not to repeat that mistake. But no issues this time, and he flew straight into the portal, and now I have a horse on the nether roof. Unfortunately, we were only able to bring 5 of the 6 boats at one time. The 6th kept detaching no matter how I tried, so I decided to come back for that one. And we made it. That saved us 5 two-way boat trips. Did we save a lot of time doing this? Probably not, but it was funny. For the missing boat, I decided it would be easiest to set up as a boat on the ice path rather than dragging it back. This will make it a very quick trip, so I'll see you over there. Let me ask you a question. How would you move 160 full shulkers from one place to another very distant place? And once you got them there, how would you then move them down hundreds of blocks vertically without losing the contents? See, I have an idea, and it was a very scary idea. So I rode each boat through the portal, down this one wide dirt path that wasn't insane at all, and then simply rode off. And about halfway down, I would jump out, follow it, and then break the boat and simply move the shulkers a few blocks away to each of the chests. It's a very simple, if not sketchy way to go. Once I had the technique down though, I just had to repeat it 5 more times. And now we have 270,000 frog lights at the perimeter. And now I get the wonderful, incredible, not at all mind-numbing, brain-draining task of placing that many frog lights in straight lines for hours. At hours. There's not much to say here, but it's super cool to watch happen, so enjoy. When I needed breaks from the frog lights, which I did, I would simply go run my gravity block farm for concrete powder. We're going to use a lot of that to make simple walls for the perimeter, so I need to be here quite a lot, and it made for nice mental refreshes. And with this last row, you can see I've now placed over 94,000 of each type of frog light to go with my 212,000 sand placed, and this giant flashbang is the result. I haven't taken the world leader down yet because I wanted a flat floor to break onto. I wasn't going to sort through the different bedrock layers, but now that it's a flat, easy to walk on surface, collecting the parts as I break them is way easier. I only had one real mishap with that. Somehow I broke a coral fan before the TNT here. Oops. Placing the concrete wall was a bit tedious. Look straight down, place 3 blocks around and around in a 2,000 plus block square, but I love seeing the progress on this. Watching the walls being completely covered and going from a very ugly, destroyed disaster of land to this smooth, simple surface is one of the great little pleasures this huge project offered me. Near the top is when I felt like this project was really starting to become something. Not finished, but closer than I could have imagined a few days or even a few episodes ago. Standing inside of it never looks as big as it actually is. With my normal 32 render distance, it's simply a box, and these smooth walls and overly bright floor that's still in light mode. So I thought I'd show you just a little taste of how huge this actually is using something you should all know from my world, the main storage. This is how large my main storage actually is when it's inside this perimeter. I use rockets to fly from one end of my storage to the other. This storage is big. This perimeter? It's massive. Let's catch up on a few of the statistics because they're actually interesting. I've placed over 257,000 light gray concrete powder, and it's our most placed block in the world. The top 5 blocks are all from this one project. To collect the carpets needed for this project would be nearly impossible normally. My 100 sheep wool farm makes around 9,000 wool per hour. I'd be sitting AFK at one farm for more than 24 hours straight to even get there. And we know I don't do that, so I built 10 separate carpet dupers and used the most rad collection ever, me, to collect it and store it all away. Thank you, item scroller, for this not being super toxic. And in these chests are every material I need to build the rest of the design. And yes, once again I'm using a Lightmatic file because I created this off an image many months ago, and I want to get it exactly right. I'll be placing in the darkest colors first, and no, I'm not going to do the typical Lightmatic thing and do it in boring rows. We're going to make it from the center out, and you'll see why. Let me show you what I was so excited to build that I pushed aside our other plans. Okay, yes, I'm doing the outer light gray and boring lines, but only because I've been at this project for more than 100 hours in total. I'm worn out, I'm tired, my brain has turned off, You gotta forgive me. Oh, and look at this weird bug I picked up somewhere along the way. My feet don't move. I tried everything while in game to fix it, but only logging out and logging back in did the trick. I couldn't get into fly mode, swimming didn't work, it was so weird. I even tried taking damage. I'm just glad it also happened in a recent rec rap video, so I'm not the only one. Well, let's finish up. I have a big reveal to do, and with these blocks, I am done. It's now day 2829. Remember when I said to keep in mind the day earlier? That day was 2480. We've passed nearly 350 days in one episode, and it was all for this. This image is by an incredible graphic artist from Kazakhstan named Disk. I knew when I saw it I was going to build it in game one day, and now we have. I love the way it works in the perimeter, and yes, I considered making it climb the walls and extend all the way out and up, but it was just too much for my brain to figure out. Now I can talk about the big 4 projects that will be inside this perimeter long term while we walk across the entire thing. And each project will basically cover 1/4 of the full perimeter and be contained basically within a standard perimeter of its own. First, you already know if you've been watching, this area was chosen because of a double witch hut. I don't have any triples closer than 100,000 blocks, so I chose this double, and I'm going to put a brand new, never before seen witch farm into 1/4 of this perimeter. That witch hut will give us triple the redstone per hour of our old stacking raid farm, so we'll only be missing the emeralds from that now. All the rest of these plans are previously unannounced, so here we go. I'm putting a 600,000 per hour creeper gunpowder farm into 1/4 of this perimeter. We've had 4 gunpowder sources in this world, and frankly they all stake. I fly a lot, and this will give us gunpowder for as long as I could ever want the world to continue, and we will never have to upgrade it. Third, I'm going to make what I've been calling privately a tree complex. What does that mean? Well, I'm going to put a large bone meal farm here, and that's going to power every type of tree farm. Universal tree farm, a nether tree farm, a mangrove farm, propagule farm, a fungi farm, a new dark oak farm that I want to try since we already have my 100k version in this world, and a series of bamboo farms that will produce a ton of bamboo whenever we need it. The bone meal farm will also power a charcoal farm because in the final quarter of the perimeter, I'm going to build a 1728 furnace Omega super smelter that smelts a shulker of material in about 10 seconds. Why? Because I can. Okay, no, honestly, what if I want to do a glass fog effect in this perimeter? A 7-layer glass fog would take nearly 2 million glass. We're not trading with librarians for that, so we have to get it somehow. I'm not saying I'll ever place 2 million glass for a single fog effect, but if I want to, I want to. And that's everything going in here. And can you believe I haven't even walked from one side to the other yet? In fact, I'm not even close, I'm barely at the middle. Hold on, let me zip right over there and find another couple of large builds to drop in here so you can see the true scale of this perimeter. This is the schematic for my starter pagoda. It's a 6-story high, rather decent sized build, and you can barely tell it's here without looking closely. How about this? I recently built this massive octagonal pagoda in my city that I called the biggest build I've ever done, and it is. But not here. Here it can't even cover the very center of the design. Before we go, I'm moving my dogs home so we can name them. You guys gave me loads of great suggestions last time, and I'm hoping those people see their pups named now. Zeke wrote me a wonderful comment and said we're partial to the name Layla for a pup. I love that, so today we're naming one Layla. And Ariana asks, can you name the pupper Brave? Ariana leaves tons of lovely comments as well, and that's a perfect name, so we're going with that. You are going to be Layla, and you were the first new pup to approach me, so you're going to be Brave. Let's collect the rest of the new dog breeds soon, I think that's a good plan. I want to take one more long look at the finished project. Are you with me? 350 in-game days is somewhere between 75 and 120 hours of gameplay no matter how you sleep or don't. I recorded over 110 hours of total footage for this one episode, so if you did like it, you know what to do. Please do the thing. This was a lot. Let's call it there. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon. For our Halloween special, we're going to build a mob sorter to collect Halloween mobs, and then 2 witch farms for thousands of redstone. On Halloween, many mobs spawn with a pumpkin head or even a lit up jack-o'-lantern head. My goal is to collect as many unique mobs as possible and then grind for rare mobs. How are some Halloween mobs rare? Well, they can spawn with armor, and the better that armor is, the more rare it becomes. Or your mob could spawn with enchanted armor, which is definitely more rare. Add a weapon, or change that out for an enchanted weapon, and it becomes more rare again. Left-handed is then more rare than that, and if that same skelly has armor, well, that's even more rare. Mobs that spawn with pumpkins include wither skeletons, strays, husks, and drowned, and baby mob variants may also have the same rare traits. And thus the ultimate goal, and not one that we'll achieve today, is a left-handed, fully enchanted leader baby zombie riding a chicken with an enchanted sword and a jack-o'-lantern Halloween head, which everyone who's ever played Minecraft could hunt for 24/7 and will still likely never see. I'm not showing resource collection today. I have a head cold and my brain is no. It happened, let's get straight into the build. Not every mob we want to collect on Halloween can be caught in an overworld mob sorter, but our best chance to get some above average ones is to build a farm that spawns thousands and thousands of zombies and skeletons, and save only the best. To do that, I'm using this farm design that was given to me about 2 years ago by Dave Guy, and it's one that can handle not only sorting the mobs, but the selection of good rare ones as well. So here's the completed mob spawner section. The dark platforms are where the mobs will spawn, and they'll be shot up a bubble column that's going through the farm here. And this is the sorter. Mobs will get washed off these platforms, come down the water, where the undeads and spiders will sink and head toward the bubble elevator. The creepers and witches will get killed on the campfires and snow at the end. The spiders on wither roses just before they go up, and we'll collect some of the drops in this chest. Let's finish this up. The mob selector is now done, so I can explain this part. The undead will come up to us where I'm waiting to make choices. When I see a mob I want, I'll press a button which captures mobs in between two lightning rods and drops them into the keep chamber below. I can then pick through each one individually, removing all but the ones I actually want to keep. And the keepers are then sent to a storage tower where they'll fall down a column of honey onto each other's heads and are stored. I can then use the minecart that they're already in and the powered rails to move them anywhere in the world I want later on. That's how this will work. Now we just wait for Halloween.
Several days later.
It is now Halloween. Let's go hunt for mobs. Not every mob will come from the mob sorter, so I need to grab some name tags for other mobs like wither skeletons, zombified piglins, and the drowns. And I'll name all of these mobs Halloween 2024 so I know when I got them. This is probably the right moment to tell you that I know people can and will cheat to get their Halloween mobs. You can set your computer clock to the 31st of October on any day of the year and go hunt for them. That's fine, let them do what they want. But for me, I'm releasing this video as close to Halloween as possible. I showed the unused sorter on a live stream on the 30th of October and finished filming this mob sorting on the 31st at night when I showed several people in my Discord my finished mob hunt. So these are what we legitimately found on the actual holiday. After seeing a few of the Halloween mobs on our way out, it's time to turn on the farm and get to work. And you can see there's nothing saved yet. And this is the main button that we press if a mob we want to save is between the lightning rods. And Halloween mobs are already coming in fairly well. That's an enchanted bow with an unlit pumpkin skelly. We kind of missed that one. And most of what we'll see is like this. Basic zombies, basic skeletons, unlit pumpkins. They're all going to be very plain. When I do like a mob, I'll just press this, then sort through the ones that fall down. This button picks them up in a cart. And this one gets rid of the junk mobs. And that's our first lit jack-o'-lantern mob. After a few are picked up and killed, he's in our decision space. That's an unenchanted basic bow, so we'll decide to move on from him as well. The challenge in this is mainly keeping an eye on the top stream of mobs while I spend the time to clear the bottom ones that are among my selections. I don't want to miss any super rares passing me by while I'm sorting through basic mobs. This baby zombie with a jack-o'-lantern was the first mob I decided to keep. So I press the green button and he'll fall down the honey column to await later transportation. Then after that, I watched tens of thousands of mobs pour in, deciding if a gold boot pumpkin zombie was worth saving. It wasn't. I did decide to keep this jack-o'-lantern zombie with a sword. It was my first jack-o'-lantern with a weapon of any sort. Let me give you a taste of how the rest of my day went. The mob sorter can't give me certain types of mobs, as I mentioned. One of these specific types is strays, so once in a while when my eyes needed a break from the sorter, I'd fly around the overworld looking for other mobs like strays, husks, spider jockeys, drowns, etc. This jack-o'-lantern stray is my first non-sorter mob. I decided to drop in on him with a name tag and then get him in a boat. After taking coordinates, I left him right there where he can stay for now. Because mobs are wearing the pumpkin head, which won't burn off in the sun, I can leave them there as long as I want. So far the stray, plus these two mobs are our Halloween collection, and that's a decent start. Lack of concentration, and probably a Discord message, cost me this fully gold zombie, who was just past the lightning rod when I tried to get him. My next save was this jack-o'-lantern skeleton with an enchanted bow. I've had questions about this icon in my inventory before, and now's a great time to show you. I've had mob sounds turn way down for you this entire time, but here's what I'm hearing in-game. The icon is for Extreme Sound Muffler, which allows me to set an anchor in the world, which would be the area at the top of this mob farm, to then mute or muffle certain sounds. It took me a couple hours, but eventually I couldn't handle it anymore. And with that done, my sanity can slowly return. Now you should hear all the other sounds in-game perfectly, but we won't hear a single annoying mob sound on this platform. Once you get a few mobs saved, you become more picky in your selections. Originally any mob would do, but now I want better and better mobs. I would have taken a zombie villager with a jack-o'-lantern head, or this full chainmail armor guy if he had any pumpkin at all. I'm not good at doing nothing but waiting, so I would anxiously jump around the platform, think about future build plans, and decided that if this world still exists next year, we'll use this farm again. But I'll put something near it to work on while it happens, even if that's just a micro farm that I can run in the background for a few hours while I'm here. This skeleton is left-handed with leather armor on his lower half. If he was a jack-o'-lantern or that was an enchanted bow, he'd have been a really nice save. Just behind was this one in full gold but with no pumpkin of any kind. And I watched thousands more mobs come up the chute and go into the lava at the end. And this jack-o'-lantern zombie villager despawned on me while he was coming up the chute, which was tragic. See, where'd he go? 45 minutes later, I saved this half gold armor skeleton in a pumpkin, and then 2 minutes later, a full gold armor pumpkin zombie, who I decided later not to keep. Among my other notable catches from the mob farm were a skeleton in full enchanted armor with an enchanted bow, and this gold-covered baby zombie holding a sword. The collection chest when I went down was completely over full, so I grabbed all of the gunpowder out of that, and in a very scary moment, a baby zombie escaped somehow and attacked me while I was looking at mobs. I looked at this immediately in replay mod and saw that the sun had burned him, so when he hit me, it set me on fire. It seemed like he squeezed into the lightning rod area, and when he came down, saw me and attacked me. Not generally dangerous, but since I thought the platform was safe, I sometimes looked away for a moment too long, and from then on I mostly watched mobs from up here. After a while, watching mobs pass by became way too boring, so I went to the nether to search for different mobs entirely. Thankfully, whenever one part of the mob hunt gets a bit repetitive, there's always something else you can be doing. This tiny spawn platform, a way up to the AFK spot, and yeah, ender pearls, that's the best way to be doing this one. Basically, I can search for the mobs I want, fly up a few blocks to despawn everything if they're not there, and when I find something I really want, like this jack-o'-lantern zombie piglin, I can pearl straight down so he doesn't despawn. Then I can name tag him and boat him before doing it all again. And the first zombie piglin had a basic sword, like this one, so my main next step was to find one with an enchanted sword. Once I spotted him, it was time to go. And yes, the easiest way to see their heads from the platform was free cam. It happens. A name tag, a boat, and zombie piglins are kinda done. I would have liked a jack-o'-lantern baby zombie piglin, but that wasn't something I was able to find even when I flew through the real nether later. While in the nether, I had time to think, and I realized one type of mob I needed to find was a bogged. They're new this year, so nobody had previously collected a jack-o'-lantern wearing bogged yet. This one's not wearing a jack-o'-lantern, but it does have an enchanted bow, so I'll start there and get the other one later. Once it became daytime, I went back to the nether to get another couple of mobs, wither skeletons. I ended up with a wither skeleton head, not exactly what I was after. The more open nether was more friendly for this, and this fortress delivered not only this pumpkin-wearing wither skeleton, but this jack-o'-lantern-wearing one, if I can fend off the 1,000 blazes that are guarding it. Yeah, easy. I lured him out of the fortress and into this boat where he'll stay until I move mobs. With both a pumpkin and jack-o'-lantern of both nether mobs, I headed back to the overworld for a bit of drowned hunting. I mean, who doesn't want a pumpkin-wearing drowned with an enchanted fishing rod? That's decently rare. Until now, I think that's one of my best finds of the entire hunt. And what else can drowns hold? Right, tridents. Ow. Drowned hunting was a great nighttime activity, so during the day I watched mobs and caught this enchanted sword pumpkin zombie. I decided to let the unenchanted sword guy go, and he went into the ocean. I realized he had a jack-o'-lantern, not just a pumpkin, so I should have kept him. So when he converted to a drown, I did. I'm not sure that counts, but it's very rare. After watching thousands more mobs pass through the system, all waiting on that special one night I was able to find this guy, a pumpkin-wearing trident drowned. Name tagging him was easy. Getting him into a boat was not. Then I found another cool Minecraft bug. He was so targeted on me that no matter where I went, he would not stop throwing that trident. He literally should not be throwing that from there. That is way too far away. Look at this. It's ridiculous. Fine, I'll go to the top of the mob farm. Oh, nope, he's still throwing it. My only guess is that this is related to the pillager bug that I discovered in an earlier episode. A zombie farmer villager was next. I'm not keeping him because he's any more rare than my other pumpkin-wearing zombie villager, but because his hat and pumpkin look so incredibly stupid together. I just thought he was cute. After a while, the trident zombie became docile. Incredibly docile. He's never thrown another trident in his life. What are you doing? This guy went from young Mike Tyson to old Mike Tyson in 5 minutes. In the end, I did catch another few mobs, including a left-handed zombie villager holding an enchanted sword, but soon Halloween was over and there were no more pumpkin mobs to catch. I did miss out on the legendary full diamond armor baby chicken left-handed, I don't know. On to a different type of Halloween project. For this special event episode, I thought we would continue from our progress last episode by building a double witch farm in the hole that we made. We need about 3 shulkers material, which shouldn't take us long. It's just bam, 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 and then let's go build a farm. The witch farm I'm using is a brand new design by Fortunate Diamond. It's linked in the description. Make sure you check it out. I've built one of these, now it's time to go build the second. The location I'm building at is the old witch huts. I've saved screenshots of their exact coordinates to use for this, although mini hut would work as well here. I kept the 4 corners of the roof to start. This design only came out a few days ago, even though Fortune and I have been discussing it for months. Make sure you go check him out for some pretty awesome farms with fantastic rates, including this one. With the double witch hut, I chose not to move mobs to me to use looting, but rather have an AFK-able design. I don't AFK much in this world, but if I'm going to for anything, it's redstone. I know I'm losing some rates this way by not moving them through the nether and not using looting, but for the sacrifice of the extra rates, it was a much easier build. With both farms built, I'm sitting AFK in between them so I can run both at the same time. The farm's really funny to watch as the massive wall of snow golems absolutely trashes any witch that spawns. It's a snowball fight and only one side has snowballs. In an extremely short time, we're absolutely loaded on redstone dust already. I ended up with over 2.5 shulkers redstone dust. Guess how long I was AFK for? Yeah, 15 minutes and 25 seconds. So we're going to get more than 3 times that, or almost 8 shulkers of redstone dust per hour. And here you can see the 2 farms now built into the first quarter of the perimeter, as well as the AFK spot in between them. It's time to head home. This cold is killing me and I need to go rest. I'm redstone rich for now. I'll see you soon. Today I'm going to attempt my biggest project ever, building more than 30 houses, 15 custom trees, all the roads, decor, fields, gardens, and more for this entire remade village. This is the residential district for my current project, a large Asian city at spawn. I want to finish this region of the city and then pass 3,000 days today. Why don't we get started on that? These magenta wool blocks represent what I imagined as the corners of each house. The homes won't be very complicated, but will have one of 6 distinct styles and one of 4 color patterns, giving me 24 unique homes and 12 that are basically rotated and flipped versions for the rest. And with unique entrances into the houses, no 2 homes will be identical, but they all look enough alike to make it look like it was one architect's work in this city. Also, I've mentioned this before, but lore-wise, the residential area is my poor district, so all the woods and building materials are leftovers and scraps. And that means houses of all types, jungle and oak, acacia and dark oak, anything they would have had on hand after building the main city builds will be reused here for these smaller homes. I'm going to use mostly bone blocks for the walls of every house, but with a little quartz mixed in, so I needed to hit up the bartering farm. After using this 2 or 3 times for just this one episode, it reminded me that we need a new and way better bartering farm with an item sorter soon. This is a great farm for trading, but a terrible one for using the drops. There's something that isn't fun about using the bartering farm for 30 seconds and then needing to spend 30 minutes sorting shulkers. Plus you get a lot of useless stuff. I don't need the spectral arrows, iron nuggets, water bottles, soul speed books, or boots, and a few other things. The main overall building material for all of the homes is going to be wood. Unfortunately, I'm always low on every type of wood, so I headed to the tree farm to run spruce, oak, acacia, and birch through the farm to start. And in total, the residential district will use over 2,200 spruce slabs alone, along with stripped oak and stripped spruce for the majority of the framing logs for the homes. This log stripper is another farm that needs an upgrade. The one that I built is great for, say, 5 stacks of stripped wood, maybe even 10? But beyond that, it's noticeably slower than other log strippers. Perhaps we also need to upgrade this soon. After converting some of the spruce to slabs and manually mining a bunch of leaves that I'll need for decor later on, I've done all I can do to prepare for the build. Yeah, 15 shulkers of building material, that should get us close. I'm sorry, sirs, we are not ready for visitors yet. This location is closed for renovations. Please come back later. Thank you. The road is now mainly in place. It's a little too squared off in some areas, so as I go, I'll just keep tweaking it to remove the harsh edges. I also wanted to add in some of the coarse dirt to the edge to show where it's worn down some. The streetlights aren't quite in yet, but they're also spread out fairly far to give the most ambient light to the roads. I want to keep it basically as dark as I could in the area, especially the road ends, though I may add 1 or 2 more lights where it's a bit too dark. It's time to start the homes. What you'll see as I go is each home is directly connected to the road. Some will have long, tall staircases, while others will directly connect to the road like this first one. Each home has a small footprint, either 5x5 or 7x7 for the squares, and 9x5 or 9x7 for the long rectangles. So they're going to be basically typical Minecraft size homes, but with a lot more detail, far more Asian inspired roofs compared to the typical village and things like that. It's probably easier to show you than tell you. Give me 1 second, I'll build a few of these up. Okay, now you can see what I mean. The mishmash of roof styles and wood types makes each house look fairly unique, and with one tall build also done here, there's a nice variety of height as well. Let's keep building. Okay, that was a lot of work. I'm far from done with the entire project, but the main homes are now in and we're making great progress. I finished more than 30 houses, and I love how it looks from all these different angles, especially coming in through the city gate and down the paths. I do still need to smooth these paths, but all the unique stairways down to the road turned out well, and I was able to use the existing terrain, not flatten everything until it was boring. And here we can take a second to look at it. There are 4 of the tall homes in 3 different styles, a few deep slate reinforced roofs with some with acacia trim, while others show just a little bit of acacia through. Most of the homes are also on support logs and raised above the ground because they're all close to the river, and we'd want to keep them out of any flooding. Some have window trimmings while others can't afford that, some have nicer shutters than others. One thing that will add a bit of life and realism here is some custom trees. I'm going to be adding large custom trees to the main city, but here I want to spread out 15 to 20 small and mid-sized trees, mainly spruce and oak, especially on the outer edges of the village to show the boundaries. And after the custom trees, I also fixed the roadways to blend better using slabs. Let's walk through the village and I'll show you what I've done. Since the road is cobblestone, andesite, and stone, I had more than a few options to make the transitions look nicer. You can see the wood piles, jack-o'-lanterns, melon piles, pottery, all the other little decor items that I've placed around town, as well as stone piles, lots of leaves scattered around to add a bit more ground foliage, and you can see how the custom trees add that little bit of extra everywhere you look. I do have little bits of terraforming and landscaping left to complete as we go. This fallen tree and some of the decoration around the village tells more of our story. This used to be a small forest, but the villagers have cut most of it down now. The custom trees show what remains of that, and the fallen logs show that it's an ongoing process. I also did some very basic terrain improving where I had overhanging lands and stuff that just didn't make sense to me. Tiny bits of sand were also replaced as they don't look like beach, they look like mistakes. After cleanup and restoration, this is what it's looking like. The whole city's really coming together now. In the last 1,000 days, we built 2 of the main districts, the Harbor Dock and now the residential zone. I still have the military area, guild district, and the main city to work on, but we're making progress. I love how this area looks when you walk through it. The homes are very close together, but the road helps them make sense and gives them space. And seeing the arena through the gaps in between houses is a nice touch, a reminder of the larger city that lies just beyond the gates. My plan is to complete the city and then come back and touch up every area with more detail, more story, more lore, and basically do whatever it takes to make them look good before we wrap up this project. Coarse dirt under the houses where grass has died, more crop fields, and some flowers and grasses would definitely improve how this ties into the world. This is the area we've been working on today. I'll definitely need to update the map later. I'm now just a few days from 3,000. If you've watched the whole series so far, you know what I need to do next. World maintenance. During the first 1,000 days I pushed as hard as I could, but when I was done I spent the first 200 days after just gathering resources, running farms, and catching back up so I could begin the run to 2,000 days. That was a pretty toxic way to do things, as it meant future me would suffer so present me could do more. For instance, it's clear that even though I have redstone now, I have very few redstone components. I used thousands of each one in the last 1,000 days. It's easy to fall behind on these tasks, but they're very important to the way I run the world. The entire purpose of me building over-the-top crazy farms is so I can build the city easier. It's great to have all these things, but if I don't use them, what's the point? During the first 25 episodes of this series, one question I've been asked a lot is, why do I build the OP farms? And I think while we use this tree farm is a great time to talk about that. See, this tree farm is good. It's an early game farm I built in episode 3 so I'd have some wood to build with. But this farm makes around 8,500 acacia per hour, 7,500 spruce, and just 7,000 jungle. The universal tree farm I'm building in the perimeter soon gives me 45,000 acacia, 65,000 spruce, and over 80,000 jungle. So instead of spending 6 to 10 hours here, I can spend a single hour here for the same results. So if your world is going to last for a short time during your 2-week Minecraft phase, Ian's tree farm, the basic one that I'm using, is a really great farm to use and learn so you have the materials and you won't have to manually chop them. But for me, I want this world to last 10,000 days or more, so I need to improve my farms as I go. For now, I grab more than a bit of a shulker of acacia, birch, oak, spruce, and warped wood. And maintaining my farms also means checking when things are full or even broken. This armadillo scoop farm is completely full because it doesn't have any real storage yet. And similarly, my torch flower and pitcher pod farms were so full that I ran out of shulkers in the shulker loader. Have you ever noticed that hardcore YouTubers rarely fix, empty, or replenish their farms? I prefer that you get a chance to see the reality of running a world like this. When I looked at the resources in storage, cobbled deep slate is another that I was in desperate need of. I use a lot of it in my roofs and was running low. Bringing back shulker after shulker of this from the boar is a great help in the next 1,000 days, so I don't have to constantly run this and run back and forth to keep up with the demand. It's also fun to run the boar and collect more. I keep hitboxes on, F3 and B, while I do this so I can see all the drops too. Okay, I don't really need any more ores here, so I'm sure this is gonna do. Onto the stone generator, and this one's a bit, I don't know. I don't like running it. It's fast, it's an easy way to get stone, but I need to constantly watch my pickaxe so it doesn't break. It's a bit slower than I'd like, and while some farms and machines are fun to run, this isn't one of them. While back on the island, I also ran more spruce through the tree farm. I use a lot of spruce and felt like I probably didn't have enough yet. And bamboo was next, so I grabbed a handful of shulkers here too until I ran out of bone meal in the farm. And I emptied the pumpkin and melon farm, which was absolutely full, and then went to the witch farm for more redstone. And a bit of AFK there gave me a half shulker of redstone blocks, which is a ton. I also collected the gunpowder and glowstone as well as the sticks. I don't know why I'm always running the tree farm, but I'm always low on sticks. I don't know why, but I blame fences and redstone torches somehow. One of my plans for 3,000 days was then to hit level 500. I was close and wanted to push for that little milestone before I ran out of time. I started off at the gold farm so I'd not only get XP but also some extra gold for bartering once I remake a new bartering farm, but I realized this was too slow so I went to the guardian farm to finish up. And here I am just on the cusp of passing level 500. And if you don't think I'll leave you hanging at 499.9, you don't know me yet. Nah, after as many bottles of XP as I've gone through in this world, it was only right to do this with a bottle. I'm gonna grab 10. How many do you think it'll take me to get there? Leave your guess in the comments, but it's neither 1 nor 10, so start there. Ready? 1. Nope. 2. Still no. 3 bottles? Almost. 4. We've got to be close. 5? Nope. How about... There we go. It took 6 bottles of XP, so if you guessed that, you were right. If not, better luck next time. The moss farm and chromos were the next to get a bit more attention. I ran both for a few shulkers of moss and bone meal, although again, this bone meal farm is way too small. I need to upgrade that soon as well. Dark oak is my fastest tree farm and the wood type I use most in the world, so I also snagged another few shulkers of that here. I could watch the item stream from this farm for forever. It's super satisfying. Not everything I'm low on in storage can be farmed easily. The main manual work I needed to do was to get terracotta. I never have terracotta, so every time we use it in the city, I have to fly to the outpost portal, grab what I need and fly home, cook it if necessary, and then use it. It's a lot of running around for what usually is like 15 pieces of glazed terracotta. So today I grabbed several shulkers of red, white, and brown and orange terracotta, along with some plain terracotta as well. And next up was quartz. Unfortunately, because the Void Trader's been busted by Mojang in the 121 update, I can't get quartz blocks easily. My bartering farm, as we discussed, isn't fun to use and isn't incredibly fast, because you have to sort all the drops, so I thought I'd mine some quartz and break that up with fortune since I need to break up other ores like coal anyways. It's never bad to grab a few extra ancient debris for future netherite ingots either. Whenever we fly to the end in the future, you're going to see some new iron golems around the stronghold room. After my near-death experience with the magma cubes, I decided to drag a golem through the portal before I went, hoping he would take care of anything on the other side. I was actually very surprised to see he was killing some when I came through. I thought I spawn-proofed the iron farm, but I must not have done a great job. I'm glad I used the golem first this time, though that could have been the end of the series. I was headed to the end to check the shulker farm. I remember it was broken in 121 and I wanted to see if I could fix it. Unfortunately, I tried killing both the main shulker in this chamber and all the ones above with the armor stand, but neither fixed the actual problem that it has. And my 96 sheep wool farm in the end was also broken from the 121 update. The grass block furthest back can no longer be on this level, so it ejects wool the wrong way. I removed all of that grass and replaced it one block higher, and the farm should work again, although I'll need to enclose it fully once I bring more grass back to the end next time. With the Void Trader, Shulker Farm, and Wool Farm being busted by Mojang, was it any surprise that this basic ENX04 copper farm no longer works? No, no surprise at all. Instead of trying to fix it, I decided to retire it. That means I can light up the entire end island now and then just block off the copper farm chutes. The way Thorns works makes this a very dangerous farm. I can't recommend it any longer. Thankfully, if we need copper, breaking down a trial chamber is way more fun anyways. Before I leave the end, I want to show you a trick I learned from my friends over on One Shot, especially Jamal MC. To be fair, I only have one pearl, so if this didn't work first try, I wouldn't include it in the video. But I had to try, and it did work. There we go. I'm now lounging in the end fountain hot tub. If you don't think this is real, you can try it for yourself. Aim straight down, and just as soon as you start falling off the bedrock edge, throw the pearl. You should end up in the fountain. Then you can walk around freely and even jump, but if you get out and back in, the portal will work normally. And yes, this works on servers. Party tricks are the best tricks. Okay, back to work. I grabbed a shulker of coal ore to fortune up to fuel my furnace array. I do have a 192 smelter or furnace array, and while I'm going to be building a better one soon, I'll show you why I decided to use up some of this coal. I have a 1,000,000 per hour cobblestone farm, the fastest rates for any farm in my whole world. So why am I using that crappy stone generator on the Mushroom Island that I don't like running? I could just cook a bunch of cobble with this. The reason is generally fuel. I hate wasting coal to get stone when I don't have to. The insanely fast creeper farm we're building soon requires a ton of sea pickles, so I went and farmed those while I was waiting. And actually, let's talk about where all this is going next. I do want to build a 600,000 per hour creeper gunpowder farm soon. I need to build a new shulker farm as we saw, so let's do one in the overworld. I'll chunk load it and we'll have shells for forever. I talked about it at least twice already today, but a new bartering farm with a sorter is a must. I need to be able to use the bartering farm without hating my life every time I do. The next main build area has to be the military district. This will be near the cartography pagoda and we'll have training grounds, barracks, the works. The tree complex will have about 8 farms, including a massive bone meal farm, and that has to be soon as well. A lot of our farms rely on bone meal and I'm always out. That will also power the Azalea charcoal farm to power our super smelter down the line, so I don't have to worry about fuel. It also saves about 90% of the time of using the tree farm that I currently have. And I still do want to make a trial chamber roller coaster simply because it's a fun project. I think keys will get more uses in the future and I'd like to have as many as I could ever want. And finally, the guild district should get started in the next 1,000 days, and that'll be this area up on the hill. Here we are. Our current progress has been amazing, I think. In this 1,000 days, we've updated to 1.21, cut the mace, new trims, ran several trial chambers, built all of our autocrafters and the autocrafting house, the harbor dock, 2 boats, all the shops that are there, built a new slime farm, ominous bottle farm, scoop farm, silverfish XP farm, and then destroyed 35 million blocks for a humongous perimeter, carpeted that with the map art, built the Halloween mob sorter and collected rare mobs, built 2 witch farms, the entire residential area for our city, and kept everything running smoothly. Let's quickly update our map with today's build. Okay, here we are at the end of day 2999. I've never had a hardcore world in the 3000s. Let's go somewhere new together right now. And that's it. I've officially survived 3,000 days in hardcore Minecraft. Make sure you like, and if you haven't, subscribe. I'm gonna go out and plan the next 1,000 days and get to work. So I'll see you soon. Goodbye.